The drivers and the crew know there's no tougher place than Nazareth. Hello and a very warm welcome from Ben Edwards and Jeremy Shaw to the Bosch Spark Plug Grand Prix presented by Toyota. It's round 4 of the 1998 FedEx Championship Series, and let me tell you, we are so happy that the sun is shining, there is no rain, the track conditions are pretty much ideal, but they are causing a few concerns, Jeremy.
It's perfect, a bright blue sky, very clean racetrack, and that in itself actually presents a few problems. This morning during a half-hour warm-up session, several teams were experiencing excessive wear on their tyres. We're going to have to take a close watch on that as this race progresses.
Now, qualifying was held in lovely conditions on Saturday before the rain came down on Sunday, and we got one team taking the front row. The team we're talking about, the Players Forsyth team, and Patrick Carpentier was able to take his first ever pole position. It was a brilliant effort from the young French-Canadian, who's won here in Formula Atlantic in the past, but a good effort in the Champ Car. His teammate Greg Moore had been fastest up to that point, so he had to sit and watch the monitors and see Carpentier go that little bit faster. But he won't be too bothered. He'll be delighted to be on the front row with a great chance of overall victory. Looking down into the pit lane there, and we're having a bit of a look at the Penske pit. The Penske story has been slightly different to the Players Forsyth story this weekend. They've had quite a few problems, various problems with the new car, the 1998 car, brand new for this year, remember, but they've done really very little testing with this car at this particular track, and that has certainly caught them out this weekend. It all started going wrong for them on Friday when Andre Ribeiro, pushing hard, lost it on the bumps through turn number 2 and suffered this nasty-looking impact against the wall. Thankfully, Andre was able to step away unhurt, but it forced Al Unser Jr. to switch cars. He got out of the 1998 car and into the 1997 car, the type of car that won here at Nazareth last year in the hands of Paul Tracy, and which Al had taken to third. But for poor Andre Ribeiro, he didn't make it into the field. Let's hear those famous words.
Gentlemen,
now.
Start your engines.
Well, there we are. Get the engines fired up. The V8 engines in the back of these Champ cars all fire up, whether it be Mercedes-Benz, whether it be Honda, whether it be Ford, or whether it be Toyota. And it's great to have some action here today. We got a bit bored, I have to say, of sitting around in the cold, wet conditions on Sunday. Jeremy, it's been a long time since they've had to put a race through to a Monday, but thankfully now we are ready to go.
Yeah, and it feels great. The last time the whole race day was actually cancelled was way back in 1982. So at least that's for a CART sanctioned event. There's been a few races in Indianapolis that have been rained out, but this is the first CART sanctioned race to be postponed completely. There was another occasion in 1986 where they started a race at Road America and had to abandon it because of torrential rain. They restarted it again 2 weeks later. Very slow average speed for that race when it was finally completed.
The hometown hero here is none other than Michael Andretti, brought and raised up in this area and hoping for some good results here. He's won on this racetrack twice in the past. The season has already been an up and down one for Michael Andretti. He won the opening race of the season, just beating Greg Moore and taking his second win on the Homestead Oval for Swift. But at Motegi in Japan, it all went wrong. When he was up front, they didn't put enough fuel in the car, and embarrassingly, he ran out of fuel. He did restart, but he was well down the order by the time they finished. Then to Long Beach, and it went wrong again. They risked a gamble on the tyre. It didn't pay off, and this was the result. Michael Andretti hit the wall and was out altogether of the race. So that means that Michael sits down in 5th place in the championship, quite some way down on where he should be, and he'll be hoping for some good things today. Now then, let's take a look at the starting lineup for today's race. Players Forsyth front row, Patrick Carpentier and Greg Moore, not only a Players Forsyth front row, but an all-Canadian front row after great effort. Michael Andretti starts on the 2nd row of the grid, alongside him Gilles de Ferran, who finished in 4th place here last year, both on Goodyear tyres. Jimmy Vasser and Christian Fittipaldi next up. So Fittipaldi in the 2nd Swift, also going well. They're in good shape here. Brian Herter and Alex Zanardi are on row 4 of the grid together. Alex Zanardi, the reigning champions, never won on this kind of 1 mile oval. Bobby Rahal has won here before. In fact, his last career victory came here, and Paul Tracy's won here on 2 previous occasions. Adrian Fernandez is the championship leader. He starts in 11th place alongside his teammate Scott Pruitt. And then back on the 7th row, we see a good effort from Richie Hearn. Alongside him, Maurizio Gugelmin, who was disappointing to qualify down in 14th position.
Row 8, 2 rookie drivers, JJ Leto and Tony Kanaan, both learning quickly on this kind of racetrack. It's a tough place. They've done a good job to get on the row 8 of the grid. Row 9, Dario Franchitti. He's been in the points all 3 races this year. Alanza Jr., hometown hero effectively, at least for the fans. The team is based just 50 miles down the road in Reading, Pennsylvania. Row 10 of the grid, Helio Castro-Neves, fastest here on Friday, struggled a little bit in qualifying, and Max Papis in the fastest of the Toyota engine cars. Row 11 is Mark Blundell, British Hopes riding high, and Dennis Vitolo. You know, how competitive is this team, this field? His time would have put him on the front row last year. Row 12 of the grid, Michel Jourdain Jr. and Robbie Gordon making his comeback to the series this year. Rounding out the field on row 13, PJ Jones and Art Meyer in the Lola. Good job by the young German driver on this first time in this racetrack.
And of course the 2 non-qualifiers, Alex Barron, the teammate of PJ Jones, and Andre Ribeiro. Let's just remind you of the point standings going into this race. Adrian Fernandez leads by 4 points over Greg Moore. Alex Zanardi up to 3rd. Dario Franchitti in 4th place after scoring each time out. Michael Andretti is perhaps the man who could have done better on 21 points and tied with De Ferran at the moment. Adrian Fernandez then, championship leader, starting in 11th place, but he's been quick over the course of the weekend. Perhaps qualifying wasn't quite as good as he might have expected. I had an interesting conversation with Tom Brown, the engineer of Helio Castro-Neves, who's qualified in 19th place. He reckoned that the difference between Helio finishing up in the top 4 and finishing in 19th place in qualifying as he did was less than 1 millimetre of ride height. The car just hit the road through turn number 2, and even though he was flat out, it was just enough drag on the car to slow it down, and that's put him down in 19th position. One lap to go until the green flag comes out and the car's beginning to jostle for position. On board with Bobby Rahal, and this review as they start now to build up towards the green flag. Now Bobby starting in 9th position, there's Gilles de Ferran, and he's starting in 4th position on the grid. There you are, you 3 leaders. You've got the 2 players, 4 sidecars. We've also got the onboard camera here with Richie Hearn. Good effort from him in qualifying. He's 13th on the grid. There's also an onboard radio with Richie Hearn. There's one with Michael Andretti as well, and on Bobby Rahal. So we'll try and listen out for some of those radio contacts. Here we go though. We're getting ready for the start of 225 laps.
Downhill into turn 3, it'll be an uphill grind here up to the start-finish line to begin to pick up pace now. The starter wants a nice, clean, fast start from Patrick Carpentier. He's on the throttle, there he goes, the green flag.
Patrick Carpentier there leads into turn number 1. Greg Moore dutifully slots into 2nd place, and the field blasts past our commentary position, and it looks pretty safe so far, but look at this battle for 2nd.
Michael Andretti on the outside there in turn 2, down, he takes the line away from Greg Moore into turn 3. Fine move.
Well, we've got a yellow flag, car's off, and Adrian Fernandez, our championship leader, is off, and that's a story straight away. Now, is there any damage to that car? A little bit difficult to see what's happened yet. He's on virtually the entrance to the pit road there, and Adrian Fernandez, the man, of course, who's got a 4-point lead in the series, the winner in Japan, is in trouble already, but we haven't yet seen exactly what caused that. Now then, let's see if we can see. Going through turn number 2, watching down in the midfield area, and there's somebody lost it on Cole's tyres.
That was Fernandez.
Yeah.
He's just coming out of the corner. There's somebody making a move down the inside there, going down turn 3, taking advantage of several other cars slowing up. But yeah, coming off turn 2, it wasn't in the middle of the corner, it's coming off the corner when you're on full throttle. He just lost control of the back end of the car, and around he goes. It's a very cold day here today, Ben.
Yeah, that's certainly something that everybody is aware of, that on cold tyres these cars were going to be difficult, and Adrian, it looks as though he's just been caught out by that fact. The temperatures are really down here today. There you are, there you can just see the car beginning to get out of shape on the inside there. The back end steps away, he puts on the corrective lock, but it's just stepped out too far by then. He hits the brakes, everything's locked up, and you can see there's a bit of jostling going on behind him. A few cars trying to take advantage of that, and Adrian Fernandez, drama already before this race has really even got underway. Astonishing for Adrian Fernandez, and just concern down there in the Patrick pit. They just hope he can rejoin this race. championship leader Adrian Fernandez. And look at this, Dennis Vitolo has also spun. Now, I don't know quite how that managed to happen, because we didn't see that happening when the first yellow came out. Perhaps something had already gone on, but he's been round since then, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been around a couple of times since then, actually. I think it was just the last time around that he didn't make it. He must have just trying to keep the tyres warm and outdid himself there a little bit. Same place. It's easy to do. 800 horsepower, not a lot of grip. There's no temperature yet in these tyres, and he's already a couple of laps down, and Fernandez hasn't been passed at all yet. So his hopes of scoring points in this race are disappearing rapidly.
Yeah, it's a great shame for Dennis Vitolo, but that's the way it goes, and they'll just have to try and get that car back on. There is Adrian Fernandez's car now being towed back towards the pit. It doesn't look as though he's going to get back out again. Positions at the moment. Patrick Carpentier still leading from the pole position that he took in qualifying. And if you're with us here on Eurosport at the moment for our live coverage from Nazareth, thank you for being so patient with us. The rain yesterday putting us out of action, but we've got some great racing in prospect here today. Michael Andretti, he's the main, well, one of the main movers, but also a main mover was Robbie Gordon. Yeah, a couple of people at the back of the field actually. Robbie Gordon and PJ Jones, they started respectively 24th and 25th. They're already up to 17th and 18th. They made a big jump there at the start. I expected Robbie Gordon to try something like that, and he pulled it off nicely. He was actually pretty conservative, I noticed, through turn 1 here, but he made a lot of ground through turn 2 and made up a few more places right before the yellow came out. So good job there. There is Dennis Vitolo's car restarted. He is, however, a couple of laps down. Yeah, so already a bad day for Dennis Vitolo after a good effort in qualifying, as we said. 22nd position for him. Yeah, didn't qualify here last year. Missed the last 2 races because of a hand injury that he aggravated in the first race at Homestead. That car is newly updated. It's a 97 chassis updated to 98 aero specs, but it had absolutely no testing. And as I said in the preview, his lap in qualifying would have put him second on the grid last year. It's amazingly close, this whole field. Just over 1 second covers a whole field. In actual fact, all bar 2 of them were within 7/10 of a second in lap time. So it's very, very competitive here. Astonishingly competitive. It really is brilliant to see. And the course of this race now won't come down to lap times as much as position and dealing with traffic. That will be absolutely crucial as we start to get into this race and the distance comes down gradually. Dealing with traffic, finding the track position is what it's all about here. And for those sort of people, you've got to watch out. Michael Andretti, Greg Moore, they're always excellent in race traffic, and they always seem to be able to find the slot they require. Just to remind you that the rookies are running well at the moment. Tony Kanaan and JJ Leto in 13th and 14th. The situation here at Nazareth is that Patrick Carpentier leads, and we're awaiting the green flag once again. Problems for Dennis Vitolo sorted out. He's been back into the pits, refired the engine and has restarted. And there's on board with Michael Andretti. Now he's already moved up. Let's take a look at what happened at the start here. Ahead of him, Patrick Carpentier is in the lead. Greg Moore is in second place, the car right ahead of Michael. He's quick through turn 2, takes quite a wide line through turn 2. Pretty brave on cold tyres this. Got to the outside, and look at that, he was on the outside. Greg was very aware that he was there. Remember, these guys have spotters who can keep an eye on what's going on. Now we've got a chance to hear from Adrian Fernandez, crew chief. Let's hear.
Just a case of tires that were too cold on a cold day, and he was down low out of the groove a little bit, pinched it, and a little bit too hard on the gas, and it just got away from him.
All right, thank you. We're getting ready to go green again. So that was Steve Newey, and it was just purely the cold tyre situation. I reckon we're going to see that a few more times here today, because the temperature really is cool. It means that with a high air density, the downforce created by the wings has actually increased, and that's another issue. Now there's somebody else in trouble.
I'm not sure it wasn't Christian Fittipaldi. It's certainly a dark-coloured car.
Here we go.
It might well have been Christian Fittipaldi got himself out of shape. It was indeed, and he's fallen well to the back of the pack.
Look at Michael. Look at Michael. He's gone past Patrick straight away. Wow. Cold tyres or not, Michael doesn't seem to worry about it. He just blasts past Patrick Carpentier. He makes it look so easy, and yet as you saw Adrian Fernandez spin, it's so easy to lose it. Michael goes into the lead, Patrick second, Greg Moore is in third position, then Gilles de Ferran ahead of Jimmy Vasser. Alex Zanardi's going well in sixth place. You're on board with Jimmy Vasser at the moment. He's in fifth position now. He's chasing after Gilles de Ferran. Right behind him there is Zanardi, and behind Zanardi is Paul Tracy in the Team Cool Green car. Now watch out for Tracy. We know how fast he could be on this racetrack. He's won here twice before. He should have won more than that in the past. One particular occasion when he was leading most of the race and he overshot his pit. Paul Tracy is unbelievable around this track, and we really have got to keep an eye on his progress. Let me just take you round down through the rest of the field. Herta is in 8th place, 9th for Bobby Rahal, Scott Pruitt 10th, Guterman 11th, Tony Kanaan in 12th, then Max Papis 13th ahead of JJ Leto and Richie Hearn, then Robbie Gordon in 16th place and Al Unser Jr. in 17th position. And it means that the other Europeans are quite a long way down. We've got another yellow flag and
again.
Yeah, there's the damage done to the car. Ripped the front wing nose cone off there, as you can see, damage to the back as well, and Dennis is not having a very good day, is he? It's all over now, the car too badly damaged to continue, and we've got a chance to hear, in fact, as it all goes yellow again, to hear from Adrian Fernandez, who's down in the pit lane, and the championship leader, no doubt, feeling somewhat embarrassed and ashamed of what went on. Let's just see what happened to Dennis Vitolo first. This was coming out of turn 3. Well, he just lost it, didn't he? The back end just got away from him into the wall, just like that. I mean, there's just no way a driver, once it's gone like that, can get it back.
No, this was speedy. Even there on the back of the field, running straight out of the pits, he's still doing 150 miles plus. It doesn't really look it, but that's at least the speed he's doing coming off that corner. The good news, of course, no injury there. Dennis Vitolo getting out of the car.
Let's hear from Adrian
here now. Is this a case of cold tires?
No, the tires were good. It just, for some reason, we had the car too loose, and as soon as I started putting the power, the car went, went loose. I felt it coming into one, and I didn't have the time enough to move my bars inside the car, and I started rolling into the throttle very, smoothly, and he just cashed me out and just spun out.
How much does this hurt you as you came in as the season points leader?
Oh, obviously it hurts. We didn't think we were going to be that strong, but we were thinking that, trying to get us the best finish we could and try to, be smart on the race. And, we did the best I could. And, unfortunately, this is a race that didn't help us. But, it's a long season, and hopefully we will catch up.
Thanks, Adrian.
Thank you.
Disappointment there for Adrian Fernandez, definitely, and a bit of a surprise, really, to see him go out so early on. So, problems for several drivers, particularly for Dennis Vitolo. Michael Andretti is race leader here in the early stages. Fourth place, and Jimmy Vasser in 5th position. Dennis Vitolo was the man who caused this most recent yellow flag. He lost it coming out of turn 3, hit the wall pretty hard, and he's now going to be out. But there was also a problem just before the green for Christian Fittipaldi. We mentioned that he seemed to have got onto the grass. Now let's see if we can see what happened there. Just in the bottom of your picture, he just lost it going into the corner and took to the pit lane to try and sort it out. Then he cut back across the grass, but that has dropped him way down the order, and now we find himself down in let's have a look, 20th position. So not much good news for Christian Fittipaldi there, I'm afraid.
So bad news also for Max Papis, who had made a fantastic start to this race. He's jumped all the way up to 13th. Come back to that in a minute. Here's Dennis Vitolo in the pits.
Tires is Dennis Vitolo. It's got away from you twice. Is it the temperatures that's causing the problems?
I really don't think so. This morning the car was very good in the warm-up, and it was cooler. We had understeer, and then we were coming back up to that restart. It spun, and then it just snapped away from me. I'm not really sure. We may have lost a shock, or maybe that tire went down. I'm not sure. We have to look.
Okay, let's get back
to the action, and it's gone green. Michael Andretti already beginning to pull away a bit from Patrick Carpentier in 2nd place and Greg Moore in 3rd, and Andretti really is flying on cold tyres. The question is, of course, whether the car will work so well once the tyre temperature comes up a bit. This is a racetrack on which Firestone have never won before. Goodyear always have done well here. Just watching JJ Leto go past Max Papis at the moment through turn number 1, as you watch the onboard view from Jimmy Vasser, Alex Zanardi right behind him, and Paul Tracy there as well in 7th position. But of course, don't forget, although I mentioned Papis is going around at the moment, he does have to come into the pits for a drive through after overtaking under yellows, as Jeremy mentioned. That's going to drop him further down the order. Up front, though, the action is pretty intense already. Let me tell you that Mark Blundell and Dario Franchitti are both just outside. Well, in fact, Blundell's moved up to 17th position now, and Franchitti is in 20th place. Helio Castroneves is in 21st position. So there's some of the front runners there, or expected front runners, who are rather further down than we perhaps would have imagined. Nonetheless, Michael Andretti doing a fantastic job up front at the moment. His lead last time around, 1.3 seconds over Carpentier, as already some of the cars finding themselves going past some slower back markers. Jimmy Vasser, Alex Zanardi running in Ganassi team formation at the moment. Jeremy, anybody else beginning to make any ground further down the field?
I think Mauricio Gugelmin's moved up a couple of places. He's 11th right now, right behind Scott Pruitt, and there's Bobby Rahal actually got ahead of his teammate, who is Brian Herder, of course. They're running 8th and 9th, cars numbers 7 and 8, but there's some intense action already in this field, isn't there?
There really is. It's hard to watch. Watch the yellow car. That's Arndt Meyer. Meyer seems to be just a little bit off the pace here, and whether it's just because he's trying to keep out of the way of the quicker runners, it may be that he's still running, looks all right, managed to get into the field, of course, but once you get into a race situation, quite a different kettle of fish. And the car can handle really very, very differently in a race situation. They've got a full tank of fuel now, remember. They had a virtually empty tank in qualifying. The weather conditions are quite different here. It's cold, it's bright, and they've really got to get these cars sorted out. The drivers actually can change the balance of the car from within the cockpit. We heard Adrian refer to that when he said he didn't have enough time to change his roll bar setting on that opening lap to try and improve the handling. There is Arndt Meyer slow down. He's had a black flag given to him as well.
Yeah, that'll be for safety reasons. He will be brought into the pits. He's just not up to speed, and he's clearly struggling with that car. They must have made a change that didn't work on that car this morning, I should say. And he'll be brought into the pits, and they can make a change if he thinks he can go and find some more speed. Fair enough. If not, he'll park the car.
Now then, on board with Richie Hearn, a good chance to look at this track where the average speed is 180 miles an hour plus. Now into turn 3, bit of braking into this one. Back on the power smoothly as he comes along the front straight. Into turn 1, flat out. And now down to turn 2, bit of a left in the middle here. And then back on the power smoothly as they come out of this one. They're getting round in just over 20 seconds, although Michael Andretti is under 20 seconds.
Yeah, lapping very consistently, round about 20 flat, 19.9s each of his last 5 laps have been, well, 7 laps actually, of him at that pace, remarkably consistent. And he's being matched by Carpentier. Those two are absolutely trading fastest laps. They're both doing around about the same sort of lap time. Greg Moore is a couple of seconds back, but again, similar lap times there, but all the way down the field, really.
So on board with Michael Andretti now. The race leader, he has a 1.1 second lead. So as you can see, Carpentier is staying with him, as Jeremy mentioned. Similar sort of lap times for the two of them. And the Swift chassis of Michael Andretti, the winning car in Homestead, a car that was so quick on the Motegi oval as well. Those were different kinds of oval to this one, but it does seem to be a great oval car. We saw it last year as well, when Michael in the Swift from last year was able to run down Paul Tracy in the latter stages of the race. Didn't quite manage to win it, but he's determined to do so here this weekend. There is Michael Biggs, still chased by Carpentier and by Greg Moore. Then Gilles de Ferran in 4th place. Jimmy Vasser is in 5th position. Looking further down the field, you can see, in fact, that Michael's coming up to some of the quicker guys who are at the back of the field at the moment. Even Christian Fittipaldi is not too far ahead of him after his problems going into the pit lane. Just had news from the pits that Arndt Meyer's problems were gearbox related, and that indicates why he was slowing down on track. They have brought him in, and it looks as though, unfortunately, it is the end of the day for the German racer, but he did a good job in qualifying. They'll be buoyed by that as they continue the development program on the new Lola. Michael, though, Jeremy, now really, he's got to start dealing with traffic, and we'll get an idea of how incisive he can be.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting indeed. Carpentier already closing in. He's half the gap, is now just 0.6 of a second. And look at that lot dicing in front of them. Somebody going past one of the slow, I think it's Jourdain being passed by Helio Castroneves. And now that is the back end of this huge long train of cars.
So changes going on already, but Helio Castroneves is a long way down. There he is, just flashing through the picture. There's Jourdain. That's Frank Kitty being passed, or trying to be passed, by Michel Jourdain. Now, of course, Andretti's got to watch out here. Look at that, he had to lift on the exit of turn 3. That's the situation that's given Carpentier just the moment he needed to close up. And that's what racing here is all about. If you get held up as the race leader, or for any position, the guy behind gets a run on you, and that's when he can get past.
21.9 last lap around for Michael Andretti. That's how much he was held up, almost 2 complete seconds. And it's amazing how fast your advantage can disappear on this racetrack. You can have a hard time getting past these cars. He has to be fast through turn 2, but of course Frank Kitty's car will take away the air from Michael Andretti's front wings, and that's crucial to get out of the exit onto the back straightaway, downhill there into turn 3. Michael can't make a move.
Now remember, Dario Franchitti doesn't really want to let Michael pass too easily, because once he goes past, Dario will be a lap down, and it's very difficult through the course of the afternoon to try and get back on the lead lap. And the only way you're going to finish really well is to be on the lead lap at the end of the day. the moment, Michael is not actually closing on him as fast as you might expect.
No, the pace has picked up. Dario's last lap round 20.8. The same for Michael Andretti. Here is Michael Andretti on board with him, coming off turn 4 there. You can see he's not really making any ground on Dario at all. There's a huge long line of cars in front of Dario that goes all the way up to Bobby Rahal, who's running in 8th position. And it's going to be awfully difficult for Michael to get past Patrick Carpentier. He's only a few left behind. He's got to run there. Down he goes to the inside to turn 3 and makes the move. Great move, Michael Andretti. That's the first one. There's now another 12 of them to go in pretty much in a row.
So Michael's made it past Dario. Now Patrick Carpentier has to do the same thing. I can tell you as I look out of the window that Patrick was right tucked under the rear wing of Dario's car as they went through turn 1. And I don't think it's going to take the Canadian long to go past the man he was sparring with in the Rookie of the Year competition last year. Remember, Patrick did win that Rookie of the Year competition, but Dario's the man who's been scoring the points so far this season. Still on board with Michael Andretti, our race leader. The gap 1.4 seconds between him and Carpentier, coming up on the next one to make a move on, but we make a switch to Gilles de Ferran. Bit of radio contact, very difficult to make, and it looks as though he's in trouble. Look at how he's slowing down. He's been passed by a couple of cars, and Gilles de Ferran was running in 4th position. He's been passed by Jimmy Vasser, so that's down to 5th place, and now he's got Alex Zanardi right behind him as well. Now this is a crucial part of the first segment that we're on. 44 laps have been completed so far. We're looking for them to go to about lap 70, lap 75 before they make their first pit stop. So you're around about the mid part of the first run, if you like, on a set of tyres, and this perhaps where we begin to get an idea for the consistency of each and every car out there, whether they've managed to do their sums right and whether the handling of the car remains consistent throughout a stint on that set of tyres. Still up front, you've still got Andretti chased by those two players Forsyth cars. Patrick Carpentier, or in fact is Greg Moore now ahead of Patrick Carpentier according to our screens here, and it looks as though Greg managed to take advantage of perhaps Patrick getting a bit slowed down in traffic.
Definitely that was the case there. We didn't actually see it, but Patrick Carpentier back to 3rd position now, and there is Greg Moore trying to make that move on Dario Franchitti. Franchitti still running a good pace here, and it's also difficult, as we've seen already, to get past. There is the 2nd place car. Michael Andretti, of course, already pulling away. 2.5 seconds clear he is now.
So maybe Carpentier made a move on Franchitti which didn't quite come off, and that's what lost him the ground. And now it's Greg Moore's turn to have a go at getting past Franchitti. But as I said before, race for position, even if you're quite a long way down the field. Fastest laps of the day so far. Greg Moore has certainly put in some quick laps, as you can see from that. But Michael Andretti is still the man pulling away up front. Entries looking so competitive here, but for the moment Michael Andretti in the black Swift is controlling the pace of this race. Jimmy Vasser up to 4th now, remember, ahead of Gilles de Ferran in 5th, and in fact Vasser's closing up to the Forsyth car, so keep an eye on Jimmy Vasser. He's going very quickly now. There is Jimmy Vasser indeed, and he's chasing after Patrick Carpentier. And look at this, Jeremy, he really has closed up, and in fact he's having a little think about going through.
Yeah, he's looking to the inside. He wasn't really trying to pass him, he was just making his presence felt, I think, trying to psych out the youngster Patrick Carpentier. You know, Patrick's got quite a bit of experience on this racetrack. He's won 2 Toyota Atlantic races here, including one a couple of years ago en route to winning the championship, and he qualified 3rd, of course, on his first appearance here in the Champ Car last year. That was a Vettenhausen team, so he knows his way around. He's not going to be psyched out, let's say, and Jimmy Vasser's going to have to make a more bold manoeuvre to get past him. Meanwhile, Michael Andretti pulling away at the front of the field. 4.5 seconds now is his advantage. He's down into the low 19s, or high 19s I should say, once he has clear road, and he's now stuck in that big train of cars again that was in front of those the earlier group. But there's a lot of work here to go. We've only got 53 laps in the books, another 170 to go, and it's a long way.
As we referred earlier, this is a daunting racetrack. They are virtually flat out the whole way round, and for 225 laps, the intense concentration required here is really not quite like anything else. And road racers who've come here from Europe, perhaps from Formula 1 in the past, have had a real shock to the system when they've had to come into the race. Having said that, I have to say some of the Europeans not doing too badly. JJ Leto running in 13th position at the moment. That is a good effort. He really hasn't had much experience of these kind of tracks, and it is definitely pretty good to be up in the top 15. He's running consistently at the moment, and he really seems to be enjoying these oval tracks. He reckons they suit his style. He likes the smoothness that's required and the working of the car, but that concentration in this race traffic has to be 100% and total. Jimmy Vasser still keeping the pressure here on Patrick Carpentier in the battle for third position. Andretti now has a 5-second lead over Greg Moore. Patrick Carpentier third and Jimmy Vasser fourth.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that the next car in front of Michael Andretti is his teammate Christian Fittipaldi, who is down in 17th place and struggling to stay on the lead lap. So a good battle here amongst the Newman House cars. Christian Fittipaldi doesn't want to go a lap down, not even to his teammate.
No, that's right. Look at Jimmy Vasser though. We've been watching him over the last few laps, and he's just been closing up to Patrick Carpentier. Now he's got a good run through turn 2, but is it good enough? Not really. He needs to pick up a bit more of a run there to go into turn 3 alongside Carpentier. Carpentier though was a bit quick through on the apex there, seemed to use a bit more width of road to get it round, didn't lose too much time through turn 1, and now we're back down to turn 2. They get round this place so quickly, you forget until you come back again. When you're watching from the sidelines, you watch your car go past, the next moment he goes past again, you think it must be his teammate, but no, it is the same car. 20 seconds around here just seems like nothing.
We get dizzy watching it.
We do.
It's amazing out there in these cars. I cannot imagine, I must admit, what it's like in one of these race cars around this track. 800 horsepower and just less than a mile and 20 seconds per lap. Michael Andretti sticks. Here we are on board with Gilles de Ferran, who is in 5th place. Ahead of him, well, about 100 yards ahead there, is a battle for 2nd place event with Moore, Carpentier and Jimmy Vasser. And here is Gilles de Ferran. Right behind him is Alex Zanardi and Paul Tracy, so he's not got an easy time of it either.
That's right, Gilles de Ferran, who's currently lying in 6th place in the championship on 21 points. He's got the Brazilian. Oh, look at this, Zanardi. No, sorry, Vasser rather, having a go again at Carpentier, and again it didn't pay off. He wasn't close enough, and that's, as you can see, cost him a length or two. There is Zanardi right behind Gilles de Ferran. De Ferran in the Valvoline Walker Racing machine, and Alex Zanardi in the familiar target colours of Chip Ganassi. Zanardi yet to win on a 1 mile oval. There it goes, Vasser again. Vasser's this time done it. He's got past Carpentier, and Jimmy Vasser therefore goes up into 3rd position. They seem to have got the setup much better on this car, working with his engineer Julian Robertson over the course of the weekend. And Jeremy, you were telling me that they'd had a very productive test here, but it didn't really gel for them when they came back here and practiced for the race.
No, it didn't for some reason. They were very happy with the car, and Jimmy in particular was really looking forward to getting here this weekend. They thought they had a really good race setup. That's what it seems right now as well. But on the Friday morning, he was really struggling. The car is terrible, he said. He really was disappointed. But they've got the handle back on that car. It's working well for Jimmy Vasser. 3rd place, and the yellow is out again.
Yeah, yellow flag. Oh, and it's been a heavy contact against the wall, and it's the Alimax car of Helio Castro Neves that's hit the wall. So, oh dear, what a shame for one of our top rookies, Castro Neves, and he was quite a long way down the order, gradually was working his way up the field.
In actual fact, he was right behind Michael Andretti. Michael Andretti was right behind in turn Christian Fittipaldi, trying to get Fittipaldi a lap down, and Helio Castro Neves for the last half dozen laps or more have been trying to get his lap back, in fact, from Michael Andretti. So with a bit of luck, we'll have another view of this and find out exactly what happened. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, and what it does is open up the first pit stop. We're basically pretty much into the first window for pit stop opportunity. The pit lane will not be open as yet. They'll wait until the field is all gathered together, but it's very likely we're going to see the first critical round of pit stops in just a moment. Helio's out of the car. That's great to see. What a likeable young man he is. One of the 2 Brazilians who've moved up from the Indy Lights Championship. Helio Castro Neves finished runner-up in that series last year. Let's just listen to Michael on radio, see what they're saying to the pits. I would imagine we're going to see him coming in, but I don't know if they've opened the pit lane yet. I don't think they have just yet. We'll probably have to do 1 more lap, and then the plus board will be given, and that's just a big plus sign at the end of the back straight, which indicates to the drivers that the pit lane is open for drivers on the lead lap. So they are open. We've just gathered. Yes, I can see the plus sign down in the pit lane. In fact, that's to show the teams that it's officially opened up. And Michael will be coming in at the end of this one.
Okay, we look down from our vantage point here, which is above the the front end, let's say, of the pit lane, and all the right front tyre changes are already out on their marks with the tyres in place, ready for the first round of pit stops. And you know, pit stops absolutely crucial. We've seen how difficult it is to overtake on this racetrack. If you can make up a couple of places in the pits, then that's what you've got to do. And there is Michael Andretti slowing everybody right down there. There's Mark Blundell, who was a lap behind, of course, and he will not be able to stop this time around. He will make his pit stop along with Al Unser Jr. and Dario Franchitti and Michel Jourdain and Max Papis are all one lap down next time around. But here now, Michael Andretti leading the cars into the pit lane. 60 miles an hour is the speed limit along pit lane.
So here they come then, Michael versus Greg Moore. The pit lane battle will continue now. So who's it going to win? Forsyth Racing you're looking at the moment, or is it going to be the Newman-Haas team? Both top teams, both doing a great job. Of course, remember, Greg Moore had a problem in Homestead when the onboard jack didn't work. They changed the front wing a little bit there, bit of tape off the side pod, but Michael's on his way as well, and it's a great stop from Newman-Haas. They've got Michael back out ahead, and look at that, great stop for De Ferran. De Ferran has come out in second place. Brilliant effort there from Walker Racing, and in spite of the fact that he lost a bit of ground through the latter part of that stint, Gilles De Ferran's team have just made it back up for him. Great effort from the boys of the Walker Racing crew.
Boy, there was some shuffling in there, and frantic activity here at the end of the pit lane. Jimmy Prescott, who is crew chief for Bobby Rahal, who has the first pit down here, he's upset about something, having a word with Dennis Swan, the chief steward.
So with the situation, Michael Andretti leading and Gilles De Ferran all right up there, all set to play for. Further down. We're going to take a look at a replay now of what's been causing this yellow flag that we're under at the moment. We've also just seen a fire in the pit lane. This happened just a few moments ago for Scott Pruitt under this round of pit stops. He suffered a fire. The methanol that these machines use, remember, burn with an invisible flame, so it's very dangerous in that respect. But of course it can be put out with water, which is to its benefit. Now here, Jeremy, this is the view of Helio. He's not quite in picture yet, but you'll see him wide.
Yeah, he was still behind the two Newman-Haas cars. You can see there's Mark Blundell going through, who was next up behind Helio Castroneves, just seemed to lose the back end of the car. And there's one of Mark Blundell's crewmen seems to have had a bit of a problem there in the pit lane.
Yeah, we've had reports that he got hit by another car, or perhaps something got thrown up by another car that hit him. Apparently we think he's basically okay, but obviously got a bit of a shock there down in the pit lane. It was incredibly busy down there, wasn't it? That first round of stops, most of the cars on the lead lap still, so we had an incredible amount of action down there. And really, it's not surprising. It's quite a small pit lane here. We've seen problems in the past.
Yeah, there's only room for 26 pits here, so 26 cars started this race, of course, with the 28 entrants. And there is a minimum pit size that CART mandates, and that's what the size of these pits are here. But you know, it's inevitable almost that there are going to be some sort of incidents at some stage during the season. We just hope that no serious injuries. It seems to be the case. Just a few bumps and bruises, I think, for that crew member.
You saw the water being swept away from Scott Pruitt's car. The water thrown over the car as they had this methanol fire. We heard on the radio reports that they really couldn't work out exactly where the leak was coming from, so that caused them some troubles. And so now that, well, it looks as though it's all over indeed, doesn't it, because Scott is actually clambering out. There's a look at the pit time, the total time in the pits, and the actual sort of stopped time. In first, out first for Michael Andretti. But look at Jimmy Vasser. He had a disastrous stop, and that's put him out in 11th place. So really bad news for Jimmy, who's been driving brilliantly in this race, and now he's got to do it all over again. Gilles De Ferran was the man who really gained. He's now into second place. The man who lost out so much in that last round of pit stops. Now let's see what actually happened. Into this pit stop okay. He stopped just in the right place. He keeps the engine running. We see the front tyres go on. Any front wing change? No, the jack's still up. He's waiting, he's waiting, he's waiting. He goes, and it stalls. Oh no, what a disaster for Jimmy Vasser. That worst thing for a driver when the engine lets go, just stalls and off he goes. Oh, what a disaster for Jimmy Vasser. Very difficult, of course. I mean, these carbon plate clutches are incredibly difficult. They just bite very quickly, and it's so easy to stall. It might look like a daft mistake, but let me tell you, it's very, very difficult to get these things out cleanly once everything's up to full working temperature. But nonetheless, that's what he's there to do, and it was a mistake.
It looks like it, and interesting that Jimmy was a little bit worried, or the team was a little bit worried coming into this race. 2 new crew guys on that team. Shane Johnson has taken over as the fueler, and the inside rear tyreman Keith Fennell also is new after Jack Cobb, the regular guy, got sick this week. He wasn't allowed, he had an inner ear infection, wasn't allowed to make the flight out here, but that clearly was Vassar's problem and not with the pit crew.
So disaster for Jimmy then. 11th. Let's just watch the right front tyre changer.
It's Grant Weaver, who is his crew chief, and he gets the work done quickly on that tyre, and there goes the Hogan car past him. Actually clips, I think, Grant as he goes past there, but Grant assesses the situation. He's okay. He's now worried about what's happening on the back end of the car. He's watching the right rear tyre changer, and there is Grant Weaver at the front there, smiling away. He's a great guy. He spent many years with Group 44, Bob Tullius's team on the Jaguars. He actually owns one of the Jags. In fact, it was given to him by Tullius as a parting present there. Super guy, Grant Weaver, really hard worker, and good to see he's okay there. Disappointing, Jimmy Vassar down in 11th place, having come into the pits 3rd, but who knows, maybe he can make up some of that ground again.
So Michael leads them round as we get ready to have a look. Let's just run down the order at the moment. Michael Andretti leads, Gilles de Ferran in 2nd place, Greg Moore 3rd, and Paul Tracy's moved up to 4th courtesy of an excellent stop. Patrick Carpentier is dropped down to 5th place now, our pole sitter. 6th place for Bobby Rahal, 7th for Alex Zanardi, 8th for Brian Herter, 9th after a great stop from the Tasman team for Tony Kanaan, and 10th place for Robbie Gordon.
Yeah, behind him, of course, is Jimmy Vassar, then Richie Hearn, Mauricio Gougemin, JJ Leto, Christian Fittipaldi and PJ Jones. Those last 2 exchanging positions during those pit stops. He's in 16th place. Dario Franchitti, the first of those are lap down. Then Unser, Blundell, Papis and Jourdain as we go green again.
So Andretti leads them across the line. Restart, lap number 80. Gilles de Ferran is in 2nd position. Greg Moore in 3rd place under pressure from Paul Tracy. So we've got another Canadian battle going on for 3rd, but instead of being between Carpentier, oh look at this, Tracy, nope, decides not to do it. He just really putting his car in the mirrors of Greg Moore. Hadn't really decided to have a proper go there and didn't lose out as a result of it. Jimmy Vassar is apparently making up ground already, so we'll try and keep an eye on his progress as we go through the next few laps, and he's obviously got a car that's working well.
Moved his way past Robbie Gordon that time around, so and he's up into 10th place. Actually got past, who else to get past as well? Can't remember, not sure. Richie Hearn, I guess.
Well, Jimmy's been quick all afternoon so far, morning so far, I say afternoon, but of course a 10 o'clock local time start here at Nazareth, slightly unusual. We're not used to being quite this early in the morning for a motor race, but nonetheless it seems to be working well, and the weather conditions holding up absolutely beautifully, as you can see from the pictures. Hardly any cloud in the sky at all.
Another position there for Jimmy Vassar, past the rookie Tony Kanaan. So Vassar already up into 9th place now. Next in his sights will be Brian Herter, but the yellow's out again.
It's gone yellow again. We've got another problem somewhere, and it's Dario. Dario Franchitti's made contact with the wall. It's still running, but that is a very sick-looking motor car. The rear wing dangling off the gearbox, the side pod damaged on this side, as you can see, and Dario doesn't try to get it home. He probably do even more damage to the machine by trying to get back to the pit lane. There's really no point. The yellow flag is out anyway, so Dario clambers out of his car, and this is going to be his first non-points scoring finish of the year. Great disappointment for the Scotsman, who's been driving absolutely brilliantly this year. 2nd place last time out at Long Beach. He was 6th in Japan. He finished in 9th place in the season opener in Homestead, currently lying well up in the championship chase. So disappointment for Dario Franchitti. Michael Andretti is still our race leader here at Nazareth at the moment, and the yellow flag waving again after the incident for Dario Franchitti on this occasion. We haven't had a chance to see exactly what happened to Dario as yet. We may still see what happened to him. There's Mark Blundell. He's running down in 17th position at the moment. He's a lap down though on race leader.
Took over the position from Dario Franchitti after Franchitti's accident. They've both been lapped before that longish caution, before this last caution I should say, and he is a lap down. So they were at the back of the field, those guys, dieting for position. Mark actually got past Alistair Jr. at the restart, but a lap down in 17th place, and of course at the tail end of the field here, because of the fact that the guys who are lap down had to make their pit stops after those who were on a lead lap. So tough to make up that lap now for Mark Blundell.
Looking here at Bobby Rahal, he's starting his 250th race here today. It's an amazing statistic. Remember, he's in his last season of competition now. His last win came here. That was in 1992, and it really is an impressive record he has.
Yeah, 86 races ago was his last win, Bobby Rahal, and he's got a good car again this weekend. He's been very competitive the last 2 races. Absolutely no luck. He was running third in Motegi before he had that wheel bearing problem that put him into the wall. And of course last week at Long Beach, a couple of weeks ago in Long Beach, he was involved in a melee at the hairpin and lost several laps.
Looking now at Christian Fittipaldi. Now, it started off badly for him here today because of that incident going across the grass, which has lost him so much time, and it's really been very difficult for him to make up much progress, still lying down in 14th position there.
Yeah, but the good news is, of course, at least as far as he's concerned, he managed to keep Michael Andretti behind him, so he didn't go a lap down. Now he's in the main train of cars. He doesn't have to worry about Michael for quite a long time.
Taking a look now at Jimmy Vasser with our onboard camera. Jimmy lying in 12th place in the championship at the moment. He's had a 7th place and an 8th position in the last 2 races, 7th in Japan, 8th in Long Beach. Was out of the points in Homestead, although he did manage to finish the race there. He's never won on the short oval. He's had success on the ovals, but they've always been the big ones, and he'd love to get a victory on a short track. In fact, Chip Ganassi is going to be running a race on a 1 mile oval. He's actually taking over the promotion of a race in Chicago. He's in fact setting up the track and all sorts, and that's going to probably happen next year, in fact. So I think Jimmy Vasser and Alex Zanardi better learn how to go quick around 1 mile ovals. Just looking down there now at Michel Jourdain, our young Mexican racer who's been impressive. And this, by the way, is a little look back at what happened to Mark Blundell's fueler. We mentioned that somebody got hurt down there, and what happened was he just slipped and got hit by the wheel. This was the fire of Scott Pruitt that we also showed you dealing with earlier on. The bodywork actually on fire as he came into the pit lane, which we hadn't realised until that point, because whereas methanol might burn with the invisible flame, of course when it sets fire to the bodywork, it doesn't. Now let's go down to the pits and hear from Helio Castro-Neves, who crashed out earlier.
First of all, Helio, I understand that you were trying to get your lap back from Michael, and then what happened there?
Yes, my car was doing pretty good. I mean, I just let Michael pass. He was the leader. I mean, no way to block. But my car was starting to improve each lap, and I tried to pass him on the end of the straight. And I mean, race competitive. I mean, I just tried to pass. He blocked a little bit. I understand, I think. And I lost downforce on the brake point, and I spun.
Now that's the second time you and Michael have got together. You going to go talk with him after?
Well, I think. Well, we better talk, but just race.
All right, well, let's talk to Dario Franchitti, another, maybe one of those just racing incidents. You came across here with no rear wing. What happened to you?
Yeah, I got a little bit sideways on the brakes. It was getting kind of crowded on the inside going into turn 3, and I just lost the back a little bit on the brakes. Tried to catch it back. I was hard on the power. The rear wheels were spinning, but just kept backing in towards the wall, and so I hit pretty hard. It was a shame. I mean, we struggled a bit with the car today. We weren't really on the pace at all. We lost the lap very early on. It was going to be a long day out there, but I'd prefer to finish the race to this any day. All right, thanks. Thank you.
So that's sad news from Dario Franchitti as he explained what happened. We're nearly ready for a green flag there. We're about half a lap away. JJ Leto has been into the pits meanwhile.
And Alonso Jr., they're making a stop. It's 91 laps in the books here. They probably needed that stop just to make sure that they can go the distance from here with just one more pit stop. That's why those guys were coming in there. They're all, apart from JJ Leto, they're all a lap down. So good strategy definitely from Leto. Some of these other guys may struggle if it goes green all the way. Here we are, green flag once again. 92 laps in the books.
Right, so Andretti leads away as it goes green. De Ferran in second. Then we've got Greg Moore in third, Paul Tracy in fourth place, and then Patrick Carpentier. 3 Canadians in the top 5 places. That's a pretty good effort, isn't it? And there is Paul Tracy now beginning to have a little bit more of a look at Greg Moore. Meanwhile, Jimmy Vasser still trying to make up ground that he lost on that slow pit stop. Vasser up behind Rahal, and Herta just going past Bobby Rahal there, and that puts him up 1 more position. So that puts him into 8th position now, and Jimmy Vasser really is going well here today. The car is working brilliantly well, and he seems to be flying and just picking them off one by one. Brian Herta is the next one on his list. Brian is currently in 7th position.
Good action there. There is one of the target Chip Ganassi cars. That is Jimmy Vasser flying through turn 1 there. In his sights there is Brian Herta over the crest of the hill there in turn 2. Diving down the back straightaway, the shell car of Brian Herta. There is Jimmy Vasser.
We just heard that JJ Leto picked up a black flag for hitting a crew member, hitting his crew member on the stop that he made, which looked like good strategy, but obviously he made contact with a crew member, and that is one of the penalties you have to pay. You have to go back into the pit lane again, and that's the situation, obviously for safety reasons. And it does make sense, but obviously it was a pure accident that he hit his man. He comes through now. I see JJ going through the pits on a drive-through penalty, and that's going to drop him really out of the running now.
Yeah, he lost a couple of laps now. That's a great shame for JJ Leto. He's really running well. Interesting idea, good idea to come in the pit, so he's at the back end of the lead lap in any case, but all that strategy is thrown out the window now, and he's out of contention effectively, at least for a top finish here this afternoon. And now Tony Kanaan in 10th place is the only rookie now left back on the lead lap.
As you can see from those figures as they come across the line in miles per hour, Andretti is fastest. He's still our race leader, and he's pulling away. He's up to 3 seconds ahead of De Ferran already. Greg Moore is chasing hard behind De Ferran, and Paul Tracy is then pretty close behind Greg Moore. Michael, the only man in the 19-second bracket. He's consistently fast here, and this has to bode well for the rest of today. He's been confident all weekend, Jeremy. You were speaking to him on Friday, and he seemed pretty happy.
He certainly was, and yeah, Michael Andretti loves this place. There he is through turn 1 again. That's 99 laps in the books, another 20 flat there in terms of lap time, and he's so consistent every single lap, 19, 9 or 20 flat, and into turn 3 there, the car handling pretty much perfect, absolutely no correction there, just winds out the lock as he comes off that turner there, and turns into turn 3. You can hear it absolutely flat out, up the hill into turn 2. Just breathes the throttle slightly, a couple of corrections there, pretty bumpy on that part of the racetrack, and down the back straightaway again.
Yes, the bumps in turn 2 have been an issue for all of the drivers, and trying to get the car to handle over those bumps is pretty hard work. So they really have to think about that and try and get the car handling well, and not being deflected offline too much through what is an incredibly fast corner, as all of them are there. And it was interesting just looking at this racetrack and watching them go around in the practice session, and thinking that really in European race circuit terms, there are very few European tracks that have one fast corner as fast as the ones they have here, and there are 3 distinct, very, very fast corners on this racetrack that have to be dealt with one after the other. There's no break between them. It really is an incredible test of concentration, of bravery, of skill, of ability to set the car up, and Michael Andretti is the man who's certainly doing the best at the moment.
Traffic now ahead of Michael Andretti. These are the cars that are actually already a lap down. It's Alonso Jr. who's about to put a lap on again. Alonso Jr. seems to be struggling on this set of tyres for some reason, and there's looking back a little bit farther back. That's a battle for 7th place once again between Herder and Vassar. Vassar lost a little ground coming off that turn again. He gets up close behind Herder, loses a bit of downforce on the front wings, and isn't able to get close enough to make a pass into turn 3.
Now Brian Herter, remember, had a great run in the last race at Long Beach. That was when he was beaten just at the last stages by Alex Zanardi, and of course Brian ended up finishing in 3rd position. He had a non-finish in Japan. They had a clutch problem there, but he did finish in 8th place at Homestead. He's generally been on the pace this year. Remember, Team Ray Hall have switched tyre companies for this season. They've gone from Goodyear to Firestone. Very happy about the change that they've made, and Herter has been consistently up there, lying in 7th place in the championship on 20 points at the moment. And don't forget that Brian Herter's real forte are the road courses. Once we get into those later in the season, mainly in the latter third of the championship, we can expect to see Herter right up there once again. Still perhaps a question mark over whether he's got it, what it takes to mix it with the real hard charging racers. I'm sure he can prove that to us later in the year perhaps. He's going to have the opportunity, I reckon. They've got a competitive car, but he's got to prove that he can really race with the best of them. I suppose the hard charging racers we have to consider in this championship are Michael Andretti and Greg Moore, particularly those 2 very hard charging racers, and of course Alex Zanardi. Just had a bit of news there that PJ Jones is slowing down a bit. By the way, you're watching from Gilles de Ferran's front wing at the moment.
It could have been PJ as he was being lapped. He was actually making room for Michael Andretti, so he was slow through turn 1. He could have a problem, we're not quite sure, but certainly he was letting Michael Andretti, the race leader, past him.
Look at this great picture. We're right up under the wing of Alonso Jr.'s Penske through turn 3, now coming past the grandstand, out to the wall and flat out through turn 1. And then down the hill, slightly down into turn 2, we've got a yellow flag. The yellows are out. Blundell it is, Mark Blundell, and he's hit the wall pretty hard with both front and back by the looks of things. The back end of the gearbox is really ripped to shreds, and Mark is in the wall, and that's bad news to see. He's been running a bit uncompetitively here today. The car obviously not working well, a little bit like Dario's situation, I should imagine. But look at that right rear, completely wrecked. Remember, this is his first time out in terms of racing in the 1998 Reynard.
Yeah, he'd been running in a group there at right behind Christian Fittipaldi, who was behind Richie Hearn, who was behind 17, which is Mauricio Gugelmin, Robbie Gordon and Terry Canaan, all in a train there. Mark Blundell was a lap down, but he was dicing with a lot of midfield group, running pretty competitive lap times, and a heavy impact there for the British driver.
Let's hope he's okay. Obviously still in the car at the moment and waiting for the safety crews to arrive. Pit lane closed at the moment, that's what the P means, so nobody's allowed in. We're on lap number 110.
I think I have to let it go.
Well, that's interesting. Michael's saying probably have to let it go. Presumably means choose not to stop.
Or what?
They're still closed. Everything's still closed. When they open, we will pit, okay?
Yeah, I guess. We're going to be in trouble now.
We're going to be in trouble now, says Michael Andretti.
Interesting. And then obviously he's not at all sure that it's the right decision to take, but the team obviously feeling that it is the right time. Tricky time to stop because it means they are going to have to do one more stop.
Absolutely, but Ed Nathman there, who is his team manager, the guy in charge of the strategy for Michael Andretti's car number 6, he feels that it's the time to pit, and he makes that call to Michael Andretti. Michael doesn't really have any option but to follow what Ed Nathman says, and it will be a pit stop, it seems, this time around for Michael Andretti. The interesting thing, of course, who else will pit as well? And as we're looking down pit lane, we can see just about all the other crews are getting ready to make pit stops as well, and here they come, all into the pits, one after the other. So I think they're clearly the right move, and JJ's strategy coming in that previous stop was right, and it backfired for him.
You leave the pit, there'll be water in front of you.
There's Ed Nathman warning Michael Andretti of the water in the pit lane. There's a little bit left over from Pruitt's incident a little earlier on, and actually it's just one pit slot in front of where Michael Andretti will be making this pit stop right now here.
So there we go, on to the reset of tyres. Reset the fuel.
Tires are done.
Ready to go, and off he goes. Another great stop from the Newman Haas crew, and I think that's got Michael out in front once again. Yes, it has, and the battle in the pit lane progresses. Good stop from Michael Andretti, but we've just heard that Alex Zanardi beat out Greg Moore. Now that's a great stop from Zanardi because he was quite a long way down the order, so that's pretty impressive. Oh no, there's problems for Carpentier. Patrick Carpentier, the pole sitter and the man who's been running up there top 3, top 4 places for much of the morning so far, and he's obviously stalled it coming out. Oh, what a shame, because this has been his most competitive showing at least of this year, and he's needed one. He's had a very, very disappointing season so far. He suffered various electronic engine maladies throughout the season and really just hasn't seemed to get a handle on the car in the same way that Greg Moore has. This a real confidence boost this weekend, but obviously they're the mistake perhaps
Get it back.
causing problems. Now just hearing from Bobby Rahall's radio there, and still the clear-up operation going on with Mark Blundell, and as soon as we get some news on him we'll let you know, of course.
3 cars did not make a pit stop. Brian Herter, car number 8, now leads the race, therefore ahead of Jimmy Vasser and Robbie Gordon, and then Michael Andretti, the first of those to make a pit stop.
So it's all changed around a little bit. Brian Herter deciding to stay out there, and this is going to make the next part of the race very interesting indeed. And Michael Andretti is finding himself down in 6th position now, or rather 4th position, sorry, not 6th position, 4th place, and Gilles de Ferran in 5th, Alex Zanardi in 6th. Brian Herter is the race leader at the moment because he didn't come in on that last round of pit stops. Jimmy Vasser 2nd, he also stayed out there, and so did Robbie Gordon. Robbie Gordon making his return, remember, this weekend, and taking over from Hiro Matsushita. There is Mark Blundell's car being towed back towards the pit lane, and obviously that was a fairly hefty impact against the wall. We're still waiting to hear just how Mark is, but we think he's basically okay. We're just waiting to hear any particular news from down in the pit lane, and obviously that car very, very badly damaged indeed. The end of his afternoon's running. He's just got to look forward to the next race, which will take place in Rio in Brazil in a couple of weeks' time. Back to the action that is continuing though, and we've completed some 117 laps out of the 225, so we're over the halfway distance, and Michael Andretti seems to be the man to beat at the moment. Having made that stop, he's got a few cars ahead of him. We'll just take a look here at who did well and who didn't on that last round of pit stops. Michael out in first, but out fourth, but that was because some guys didn't stop, remember. So 3 guys didn't stop, so he actually came out effectively as first of the stoppers. De Ferran in second, out fifth, and Moore, he lost out a little bit there.
Yeah, just one position to Alex Zanardi. Once again, Rob Hill's crew there, Target 2, Ganassi crew, excellent stop. You can always count on it from those guys. Moore's crew similarly good, but Chris Schofield's guys not quite able to get Greg back into the race ahead of Alex Zanardi. So one position gained for Alex Zanardi, and Greg Moore will be 6th for the restart.
Tell you what, it also seems as though Tracy lost out a bit there, didn't he? Because he's down to 8th position.
Yeah, you're right. He fell behind both. Well, he moved up ahead of Greg. He's behind Moore still. He lost out 1 position during the stops. In overall terms.
Zanardi again, really, wasn't it? It was a great stop from the Ganassi crew, and I wonder if they put as much fuel in. I suppose that may have been a slight difference. We are going to see now whether they are going to have to make one more stop. All these guys who have stopped just then are going to have to make another stop. There is the man who's moved up to 3rd place now, Robbie Gordon, and Robbie, of course, making his full-time return, although he won't be doing the next race in Rio. That will in fact be the last race for Hiro Matsushita in that car, but from then on Robbie will be in the car throughout the rest of the season. Been good to see him in the car this weekend. He and Max Papis have actually been going extremely well this weekend. The car still powered by a Toyota engine that is no doubt down on power to the other manufacturers, but the reliability of the Toyota has been much improved this year, Jeremy, hasn't it?
Markedly so. No failures yet this year. There is the fuel windows for the top 3 compared to the other 2, Andretti and De Ferran, best of the rest, so to speak, who have yet to make well, they've already made a 2nd stop, and Herta, Basser and Gordon just at 1 pit stop so far. Just a quick note on Patrick Carpentier. We saw had that problem in the pits. He's a lap down. That's how quickly you can lose a lap at this place. 17th place for Patrick Carpentier with 120 laps in the books.
That's a shame, isn't it? Because Patrick's been having such a good weekend up until now, and just that silly little problem in the pit lane, and suddenly it's all wiped out and you've got to start all over again. Still, the car seems to have been working well. He may have a chance to overtake. Not going to be easy. Let me tell you that Alonso Jr. in the 1997 Penske, as we were talking about at the beginning of the show, he lies in 16th position. So he is a lap down, I'm afraid, on the race leaders, and that's going to be tough for him to make up that lap. I mean, we've seen Al in the past work his way up gradually from lowly grid positions, but
it's not going to happen this weekend, Ben. He's been struggling from the start of the race. Very curious decision, I think, to run the older car. They hadn't got much time on the new car here, and both drivers on Friday morning were a little bit spooked bumps in turn 2. Most of the rest of the field were as well. The rest of them managed to work around it, get their cars to work. I think a bit of a panic there by the Penske team, which is most uncharacteristic, and they elected to bring out one of the 97 cars, which actually they'd taken to Motegi as a backup car for the team in case they needed it. But it wasn't needed then, it was needed this weekend.
Just looking at Tony Kanaan, lying in 18th place at the moment in the championship, but leading the rookie standings, which is a very impressive performance from Tony Kanaan, and coming into the series as the reigning Indy Lights champion, staying with the same team, Tasman Motorsport, that took him to the Indy Lights series win last year, and he's had a pretty impressive start to the season. Just looking back over the race so far, our leader at the moment, Brian Herta, the average speed 163.5 miles per hour. We've had 3 different leaders, 2 changes for the lead. We have had 5 cautions already over 54 laps. 8 cars already out. Let's look at the list. PJ Jones, Mark Blundell, Dario Franchitti, Scott Pruitt, Helio Castroneves, Arndt Meyer, Dennis Vitolo, and the championship leader right at the start of the race, Adrian Fernandez, went out. If you didn't catch that, well, basically he just lost it on the opening lap. He put it down to the car handling, not as it should do. It may have been a combination of that and the fact that the cold temperatures here really hadn't allowed the drivers to build up much heat into the tyres. The end result was that Andretti, a basic error, and just look at that car. Look what he's done to it on a cold track, cold tyres. They were just coming around, he put on the power, and would you believe it, Michael has thrown it away.
He's about the last guy one would have expected to do that. Look how disgusted he is with himself. He's pointed to the far at the back of the car, just the safety crew quickly on the scene, and oh boy, what disappointment for Michael Andretti. He knew he had a great opportunity to win this race, and it's all been thrown away. That's 2 mistakes by the crew and 1 by Michael Andretti, and he'll be ushered into the safety vehicle and brought back out and go to the infield medical centre. But clearly Michael Andretti is okay physically. Mentally he's absolutely distraught.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable, isn't it? Here he is in his hometown of Nazareth. He's won this race twice before. Look at it in turn number 3, puts on a bit of power, and the back end just steps out. Unbelievable. It just shows you just how easy it is to get it wrong when even the top guys do that. Just getting the power on too quickly, and well, these guys are brave.
I stood on and lit him up. I guess it was just the cold tires caught me.
Was the car slippery before with these temperatures, or is this kind of really caught you by surprise?
Caught me by surprise, really, because the car was excellent before that.
Everything going well? Track conditions other than that?
Perfect.
Sorry, Michael, I know it's tough. What can you do? I mean, were you weaving back and forth everything you normally would do to warm the tires?
Yeah, but that doesn't really do anything, you know, and I guess I just stood on it a little too hard.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, that's the way it goes. Don't forget these are turbocharged engines, and there is that little bit of delay. Even though the turbocharging is not that intense on these machines, there's that little bit of delay as the driver gets on the power. That was the view, as you can see, as he hit the wall. He just got on the power as they came to take the green flag, and perhaps that little delay catching him out, but you wouldn't expect it, would you? Here's the onboard. Let's see again. Oh dear, oh dear.
It's gone before you know it. It'd be no time even to correct it all. That's a very heavy impact there, even under coming up to the green. And what a shame for Michael Andretti. You know, class act. I mean, how many people would have just walked away in that sort of instance and not wanted to, clearly didn't want to talk about it, but at least he has the gall to stand up and say, look, I made a mistake here.
Pretty well as he missed it, well, everybody else managed to miss him. There were quite a few cars down on that inside that saw a car heading towards them pretty quickly. Paul Tracy took to the grass to make sure that he got out of the way, and there were quite a few cars there that managed to stay out of his way. It could have been, of course, a lot worse if they'd collected him. They were getting on the power, and that was the last thing they wanted to see, was a car heading back down from the wall down towards the infield. You can see Gilles de Ferran going past there on the right. You can see there Greg Moore. Paul Tracy, as you can see, was just heading onto the grass to avoid Michael, and thankfully everybody did manage to avoid him. So Brian Herter, race leader from Jimmy Vasser and Robbie Gordon so far. Take that car back. It's going to take a little while to clear things up on this one, I suppose, but means the laps are gradually, slowly ticking by.
Yeah, you saw those cars on the grass there, and that enabled Alex Zanardi to take advantage of that lot. He jumped a couple of positions. He got past both de Ferran and Paul Tracy, so when the restart comes here, it'll be another long cleanup. I think there's quite a lot of debris out on the racetrack in turn 4, but Zanardi jumped up to 4th place ahead of de Ferran, Moore, Tracy, Kanan in 8th now, Gujamin, Rahul, Fittipaldi and Hearn in 12th place, the last of those on the lead lap. Front of the field, of course, Herter, Vasser and Gordon still unaffected by that drama going on behind them.
Well, it certainly sets things up for the race, doesn't it? But we have really lost a man who was set to win this one. You have to say, Michael Andretti was just in storming form once again here. It's happened several times, as you said, Jeremy. It's twice now that the crew have got it wrong for him when he's been in good shape, and one to the driver now who's made a mistake. I have to say, I could still see Michael winning this championship, but he can't afford to keep throwing points away like this.
No, I mean, he's lucky in that some of the leading contenders haven't scored this weekend, of course, Adrian Fernandez in particular, but Greg Moore still in position to score a lot of points, and Alex Zanardi. So he's already 20 points behind Fernandez and 16 behind Greg Moore, and this is the last thing he needed to happen. This is where his championship challenge should have come back on track. Debatable whether he made a mistake in Long Beach, of course. He's the guy driving the car. He can see that tyre was delaminating on that left front corner, but he elected to stay out and encouraged to do so by the team. And it's a great shame. He's certainly thrown away a lot of points this season so far, and you cannot afford to do that in this ultra competitive FedEx Championship Series.
Absolutely right. There's the overhead view. The clear-up operation continuing for this yellow flag. The action continues under yellow flags, and it's still Brian Herter who leads them round, who didn't stop on that last set. Jimmy Vasser second, Robbie Gordon third. Michael Andretti out of this race in such dramatic fashion, trying to get the power down on the last restart.
There is Andretti's car, some ignominious entry into the pit lane. That's not the way he wanted to bring that car back. Good news, of course, however, for the three who didn't make a pit stop, Brian Herter, Jimmy Vasser, Robbie Gordon. The yellow flag means that they can stretch their fuel load a good bit longer than they would otherwise have been able to do so. So they're certainly happy to see this caution. The longer it goes on for them, the happier they will be.
Yes, they're going to have to make one more stop at some point, but well, we're just going to have to see, aren't we, exactly what's going to happen.
Well, I think pretty much everybody's going to have to make one more stop. It's just a question of whether they can stretch this fuel load long enough to be able to make their last stop along with everybody else and still keep on effectively the same schedule, at least from now on in.
Make up some time. There is our leader then, Brian Herter. We reckon that he can go another 30 laps before he has to come into the pit, so he's got a good chance to run up competitively up front and maintain that sort of pace. Alex Zanardi now is the leader of the guys who have been into the pits, because he's running in fourth position overall behind Herter, Vasser and Gordon. This is a good run from Zanardi. Had a tough time here last year. Still, last year didn't really feel that happy about 1 mile ovals. Let's just run down through the top order. There is Herter then, Jimmy Vasser in the target car in second position. He's been running strongly all day, and he lost out time in the pit lane earlier on, but watch out for him. Very, very fast today so far. Third place then is Robbie Gordon.
It's up to the lap car there of JJ Leto. He's a couple of laps down after that incident earlier on. Then Robbie Gordon, the Panasonic Duskin car in third place. Toyota engine car is the highest a Toyota engine car has ever been in this series. Slightly false perhaps with the pit stop situation, but two front runners ahead of him doing the same strategy, so pretty interesting.
Fourth place for the reigning champion Alex Zanardi, the winner from Long Beach, moved himself up into the championship nicely, and he's putting in a good run here so far, biding his time, which is what racing on a 1 mile oval is all about. Gilles de Ferran then runs in fifth position, and sixth place for Greg Moore. Then it's Paul Tracy, Tony Kanaan in eighth, Maurizio Gugelmin in ninth, and Bobby Rahal in 10th place. There is a quick view of Gilles de Ferran in 5th place. Finished 4th here last year. I think last year he finally felt that he'd begun to get to grips with this place. So he found it a bit of a shock to the system when he first came here.
Yeah, very much so. He was really pleased with his performance here last year. His season had got off to a pretty bumpy start with accidents at each of the first races, either during the race or during qualifying, or even both, as it was the case in Homestead. And here was the place that got it. This was the race that got his championship challenge back on track. A very good run, and to fourth place it was, I think, last year, and running strongly again this weekend. He wants the points. He knows he can do it, and the win is not far away either.
Here we go then. Green flag. Watch out for anybody losing it under cold tyres or on cold tyres out of turn 3. There's a bit of dust up there, but I think everyone's managed to get through safely. Restart. Lap number 134. Brian Herter's under immediate pressure from Jimmy Vasser for the race lead. Robbie Gordon dropping away a little bit in third position. And are we going to see Alex Zanardi beginning to challenge the Toyota-powered car that is holding on to third at this point? Hiro Matsushita, the man who's been in that car, has been here this weekend watching closely. Maurizio Gugelmin, I just watching there, going past Tony Kanaan. So Gugelmin's gone up into 8th position as he went through turn number 1. This is a gradual climb up for Maurizio Gugelmin. Qualified a long way down the order. Not that far down, but not as far up as he would have liked. He's now up into the top 10, running that 1998 car for the first time, and he'll be reasonably happy with the progress that he's making. Kanaan then has Bobby Rahal chasing him, but at the moment we're concentrating further up the order. De Ferran there in front of you with Paul Tracy still featuring on the lead lap, still playing a major part in this.
Yeah, in actual fact, he got past Greg Moore at that restart, so Tracy up into 6th position now. The Reynard Honda, the green and white colours there, Team Cool Green. There is Paul Tracy. Ahead of him is Gilles de Ferran in 5th place.
So this is going to be an interesting battle between the two of them. Ahead of them, of course, is Alex Zanardi. Zanardi still behind Robbie Gordon. It just shows you how well that Toyota-powered car previous winner at this track, as we mentioned earlier on, and just seems to be biding his time at this stage, and that's a very sensible strategy. Whether he's got a car that's going to be fast enough in the closing stages, well, we're just going to wait and see. He will be working on that with the team. They'll be playing with the roll bar settings in the cockpit. They'll be telling the team how the car's handling. They may change a wing setting, or indeed use to a different set of tyres when he next comes into the pits, just to try and change the handling characteristics and make it as good as possible for the closing stages. He's got to watch out, because behind him there is Greg Moore, and Moore, although he might have got past on that restart, doesn't seem to be that much slower than Tracy. If anything, he seems to be closing up again to his fellow Canadian. Great battle in prospect between these two. Across the lines, you can see that Jimmy Vasser was fastest across the line, but Jeremy doesn't really seem to be closing up anymore on Herter.
No, those two pretty much running the same lap times. A 19.8 for Brian Herter last time, and they're running the same pace. That is the leading pace. That's what you can run when you're at the head of the field. Herter can do it now. Vasser can do it. Michael Andretti was doing it earlier on, and that is the pace that you can run in clear traffic. Of course, when you get in clear road, I should say, when you get into traffic, it's a different story altogether. And it's not so much that the other cars are going much slower, it's just that you're held up.
Greg Moore definitely getting closer to Paul Tracy as they went through turn 2. There's a look at Robbie Gordon. He reckons he can do another 20 laps, apparently, according to the radio communication between himself and the team. And the 29-year-old from Orange, California, back out in a champ car. Of course, he did race in the last event last year. He raced for Hogan Racing, replacing Dario Franchitti for the race in Fontana. But this is his new berth now with the Argero Wells team, and it's a very important berth, really a last chance perhaps for Robbie Gordon to really establish himself as a possible champion in this form of racing in the future. So it's a chance he's got to take with both hands. On board now with a younger American, also looking to try and establish himself. Richie Hearn, this is, with a Swift chassis this year. Remember, Richie struggled manfully with a Lola car last year, and it really didn't work for him at all. And now he's got the only customer Swift chassis in the field. He's running it on the Firestone tyre, unlike the works team, if you like, with Newman Haas. So they're having to learn and develop as they go a little bit. Still, Richie's doing a good job here. He's running in 12th place, the final points scoring position. And that, if he stays around that point, doesn't make any mistakes, and he's on for a good sackful of points at the end of the day. Still looking now at the two leaders of this race, Brian Herter and Jimmy Vasser. Again, two American races. It's good to see the Americans up there this time instead of, we've seen the Europeans, we've seen the Brazilians, but it's two top American drivers up front at the moment.
I have to say, they're both winners of the Valvoline Team USA scholarship. They both went over to race at the British Formula Ford Festival. Vasser in 1990 and Herter in 1991. They both created a very good impression, and they're now two at the forefront of the young American drivers in this FedEx Championship Series. Incredibly consistent they're going. The last 9 laps in a row at 19.8. Oh, I lied, that was a 19.9. But Brian Herter and Jimmy Vasser running exactly the same lap times, and pulling away a little bit now from Robbie Gordon in 3rd place.
1996 champion Jimmy Vasser. Brian Herter yet to win a race, let alone in the championship, but surely a future champion. If he can just string a series of good results together. He's very smooth, very consistent. Brian Herter, great part of Team Rahal. And of course next year, likely will be the team leader unless something goes wrong of Team Rahal. Bobby will stand down, bring somebody else into the team, and probably be a younger driver that they can help develop and progress. We'll have to wait and see how Bobby decides to play that. But Brian Herter obviously will be in great shape as team leader.
Yeah, Mike Morkowski, of course, driving an Indy Lights car for Bobby Rahal, but he's certainly been struggling this weekend in the Indy Lights field. He crashed earlier on in testing, and yet to be seen whether Morkowski will make their stuff up into Team Rahal's Champ Car team. But still 20.0 there last time round for Jimmy Vasser. Of course, pit stops looming though for these first 3 cars, with Robbie Gordon 4 seconds back in 3rd position.
Now then, Brian Herter going past Alonso Jr., putting him another lap down, and you can see for yourselves that Alonso Jr. sadly is still struggling with the handling of this 1997 Penske, the champion of 1990 and of 1994. Remember that 1994 season, the Dream Team season, when Penske's just won virtually every race, not quite, but they had 1, 2, 3. They had 3 drivers for them that year. Emerson Fittipaldi and Paul Tracy. They were dominant. Just looking at the pit window there, you can see there's still a bit of time before Zanardi and that lot come in, but the other guys, Herter, Vasser and Gordon, are very much into their pit window. They are going to have to come in. It looks as though they may have to come in under green race conditions, and
to make a move on the lapped car, 2 laps down actually, Aldal Ansel Jr. Everybody's going to have to make one more stop in any case, so as long as they can keep that sequence, they'll be okay. They will lose a lap when they come in to make the pit stop, both Vassar and Herta, but effectively so will everybody else, so they'll be back on the same strategy as long as it stays green.
Yeah, so this could be pretty important for Vassar. He's got the lead now from Brian Herta, and chasing away, again doing some pretty rapid times, although they're mixed up in a lot of traffic at the moment. There's the Team Rahal pit, and it's going to be another battle, is it, between Team Rahal and the Ganassi team, except it's not Zanardi at this point. Well, Zanardi's still running in 4th position, remember, as Robbie Gordon has got to the edge of his fuel window, and he has to bring the machine in now and go for refueling. Still running very competitively, and Gordon should be in good shape once everybody else makes their stops as well. In he comes, and just showing that that car, they've got a good chassis set up on it. Engine power as such is not so critical at this track, so although they're down on brake horsepower, the fact that they've got the chassis handling well is really what has meant Robbie Gordon able to run up the front. He's had some good results here in the past. Good stop there, 13.3 seconds. Took the pole here when he was driving for Walker Racing back in 1995. And he finished 4th here when he was driving for AJ Foyt back in 1993. So he does seem to like this track, and Gordon is an acknowledged oval racer. Last year he was competing in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, and this year he's back in Champ Cars. So good effort from Robbie Gordon so far. Arturo Wells must be delighted to see their car so well up, and we're now waiting to see the next 2 come in. Brian Herta and Jimmy Vassar due in any time now. They're going to have to stop soon. Otherwise, they're going to get into the same situation that Michael Andretti had in Japan. There is Brian Herta. So, Herta's in for 2nd position. And of course, he will drop quite a long way down the order, but everyone else ahead of him will have to stop in this race. So, everything could change later on. Grabs a drink bottle from the stick. The tyres come off. The worn Firestones come off. The new Firestones, just lightly scrubbed in the morning warm-up, go on. Takes a while to put enough fuel on board, and away he goes again, lights up the rear tyres, no stalling of the engine. They're right down at this end of the pit lane, almost right in front of our commentary position here, and a good stop from Team Rahal. The boys have done well there, and now we just wait for Jimmy Vassar. I wonder when he's going to bring that car into the pits. Can't be long now. He now has a 2.2 second lead over teammate Alex Zanardi. Now is Jimmy coming in this time? No, he stays out there for another lap.
Finally gets a move past Max Papuset. It's taken him an awful long time to get past. 12, 13 laps. Either he or Brian Herta has been right behind Max Papuset, but finally makes that pass.
So good chance for Jimmy Vassar to open up a bit more, have an advantage over the likes of Zanardi in 2nd, of Ferran in 3rd, and here comes Jimmy. He's heading into the pit lane. Very bumpy this road as they come into the pits. He's got to be careful through there, and then onto the speed limit at the first pit. So he's up to here now. He has to slow down to 60 miles an hour, comes down to the pit bay, and the team goes to work. And it's pretty frantic stuff down there as they get everything changed. Only 6 men allowed over the wall in Champ Car racing, remember? Very different situation to Formula 1, where you see a team of 18 people refueling and tyres, and they're talking to him on the radio to keep the engine going. Remember, he stalled it last time in the pits. No mistake this time from Jimmy Vassar, and almost an identical pit stop time there to Brian Herta. So he rejoins, and it'll be interesting to see who's ahead out of him and Herta once he's up to speed. I can see Herta just going down in towards turn 2. That's where Jimmy's coming out of. And so Brian is behind Jimmy Vassar at the moment, but will he still be behind him at the end of this lap? Because of course Brian Herta's fully up to speed, and this place is a bit like whirling a conch around on the end of a string. It takes a couple of whirls before you get it fully up to speed. And Vassar's going to have to watch out, but I think he's got enough of an advantage over Brian Herta to be able to stay in front of him and maintain that edge that he had before he came into the pits. So that's a little bit of excitement over, because those 3 guys have all had successful pit stops, and now they've just got to be patient and wait, because everybody else in front of them will have to make a pit stop at some point. The critical thing is what's going to be going on when they are making that pit stop, and that's going to be very interesting indeed. Gilles de Ferran there you're watching at the moment. He's in 2nd position, but he's coming under great pressure now from Greg Moore. Moore is looking good here again. I have to say that he's been looking confident all weekend. Didn't have much fun here last year. In fact, went out pretty early on but he finished second at this racetrack in 1996. He passed the likes of Emerson Fittipaldi and Alonso Jr. in the final laps in a charging drive, and he also is a twice winner of the Indy Lights race at this track. So Greg Moore really is strong on the Nazareth Speedway, and he's just sitting there behind De Ferran at the moment and looking pretty threatening, I have to say. De Ferran holding on nicely at the moment to second place. Remember, our race leader is the reigning champion, Alex Zanardi. He's got a lead of just 1.8 seconds.
Yeah, he's brought his pace down now, 20.0. That's about the fastest lap, I think, for Alex Zanardi. The gap had been dwindling back to second and third of Gilles de Ferran and Greg Moore. 1.8 seconds behind there is Mauricio Gugelmin, who is moved up nicely into fifth place now, ahead of, quite a long way ahead of Tony Kanaan, Bobby Rahal, Christian Fittipaldi and Richie Hearn, who are having a fabulous battle for sixth place.
Mauricio Gugelmin now starting his 73rd kart race, ex-Formula 1 driver of course, but has been very much a part of the American scene for several seasons. The one race victory which came last year, that was in Vancouver. Remember, he's had some 3 pole positions, including the fastest ever pole that was set at Fontana last year. Been struggling in the early part of the year with the 1997 Reynard Mercedes-Benz package that Pat West decided to stick with. I have to say, during the winter, that Maurizio was one of the major favourites for the title, but perhaps that decision of Pat West not really paying off. He lost a possible chance of scoring some pretty good points in the first 3 races, and Maurizio's now really having to catch up from behind and hope that as we go into the second part of the season, still early on at the moment, that he's going to be able to regather some of that ground. Of course, next race will be in Brazil, and for Mauricio Gugelmin last year, Brazil was pretty good. He was on pole position there. Unfortunately, went out with an accident in the end. But I would imagine that he'll be in good shape for the race in his home country. Still plenty of action out there. It's just amazing. Oh, JJ Leto's in trouble in the pit lane, by the looks of things. Entrance to the pits. Oh, I see. It's right at the top end of the pits there.
Yeah, so it's well off the racetrack there, so no problem for the rest of the teams here. But he's out of the way and lost it obviously coming into the pit lane. Somewhat curious thing to do there. There was a bit of a curve coming into the pit lane certainly. But
let's see if we can find out what happened here. Coming around there he is. Yes, just coming around. Oh, the back end just broke away. That's very strange. I wonder if he had already felt. Actually, it looks as though. No, can't see anything strange. I wonder if he'd already felt something was amiss and perhaps something just caught him out as he came into the pits. Tricky situation for Leto. Battle for second continues. Gilles de Ferran still lying in second place with Greg Moore in third position. And then Paul Tracy in fourth place. Mauricio Gugelmin in fifth now. Tony Kanaan in sixth. Bobby Rahal in seventh. Christian Fittipaldi in eighth, ahead of Richie Hearn. And look at this, Greg Moore now with a great chance to get past De Ferran. I don't think it's quite going to come off though. That was about as close as he's come to getting past the Brazilian. Paul Tracy is ready and waiting. If these two hold each other up much, particularly if they get side by side, I can just imagine Paul Tracy picking up a double draft and saying, thank you very much boys, and going straight past the two of them. Out of turn 3, down the start-finish straight, into turn 1, which is a flat-out kink, but I say kink, it looks more like a real corner when you go and stand down on the track. Through turn 2, and up the short back stretch, back straight. Not much chance for the drivers to get a breather as they're straight on the brakes and into turn 3, and that was De Ferran getting held up a little bit by JJ by the looks of things, and that allowed Greg Moore to close up again. Not quite enough, unless he can get a really, really good run out of turn number 2.
And 3 seconds ahead down up the road now is the race leader Alex Zanardi, but he's up to that train of the back end of the cars on the lead lap. There's Tony Kanaan along with Bobby Rahal, Christian Fittipaldi and Richie Hearn, and they're running very tightly together, and Alex Zanardi's behind them and unable to make a move at this stage anyhow.
JJ Leonard's having a bad day. He's just been caught for a pit speed limit violation. In fact, we already heard that he's got a problem with his limiter on the car anyway, and that's obviously still causing troubles. He's not slowing down properly to 60 miles an hour because the button's not working. The button that makes it hiccup and cough as they come down the pit lane, obviously not working at the correct speed, and so he's being caught a couple of times for that now. Alonso Jr.'s been into the pits, and apparently the Forsyth Racing crew have heard that Greg Moore's oil light is coming on his dashboard there. There he is, running competitively right behind Gilles de Ferran, and yet apparently the oil light's flashing on. They say, don't worry. Now, remember, they do get telemetry signals sent from the electronics on the car back to the pit lane as it goes past the pits, and that information will be relaying things like oil pressure. So it may well be that it's just a dodgy oil pressure light rather than being any actual major engine problem. They'll be able to keep an eye on the engine's characteristics and what's going on there from the pit lane. If they're not worried, they can just tell Greg to ignore it. Look at this, he's got a chance, he's got alongside. You saw him get sideways coming out of turn 2, but it still doesn't work. There are cars ahead of them, but it still didn't quite pay off.
Short moment there, and there is Paul Tracy right behind those two. They're trying to get past Michel Jourdain Jr. He's been doing a pretty good job. He's been running the same pace as Ray Hall and Christian Fittipaldi and Richie Hearn. He's a lap behind them. He's actually back in 13th position, but he has been running well. There comes Tracy into the pits. He didn't want to lose any more time, and DeFerrin suddenly slows, and there goes Greg Moore. We've just had a couple of people made a pit stop. Tony Kanaan came in a couple of laps ago, and what happened there with Gilles DeFerrin? We'll have to wait and see when he comes into the pits this time around.
Yeah, Greg Moore has gone up into that second position. Alex Zanardi still race leader, but DeFerrin suddenly down to third. Whether he got caught out by one of the other cars ahead of him, it seemed to be far enough ahead, but DeFerrin is going to have to stop in a moment anyway. Paul Tracy's had a problem in the pits. Oh no, that slowed him down. Tracy's lost time in the pit lane. We're just seeing him come out now, but they couldn't get the fuel hose out of the filler. Here comes DeFerrin then. Gilles DeFerrin choosing this moment to come into the pits, and of course we're under green flag conditions. This is really helping.
Front wing? You leave it as is or take it out?
Just asking about front wing changes.
Okay.
We heard Derek
Tires,
Walker.
then we go.
Derek Walker just asking whether he wanted any wing changes. Sounds as though he's pretty happy, and in they come just for tyres.
Switch off. Switch off.
And fuel top up.
That's right, yes, fuel as well, of course, to get through to the end. But no change of setup. He's happy with the way the car's handling, and it's a good quick stop once again for DeFerrin. They've made a quick stop earlier on, which gained him some time. That's another good one for the Walker Racing crew. So he's all set now to make it to the end of the race, and we have some 34 laps still to go. We're into the closing stages. This is where it really starts to become exciting as they all head towards the checkered flag, and it's certainly going to suit the likes of Jimmy Vasser, all this that's going on, because these guys all having to stop under green flag, and that helps the three that stopped a little earlier on. They'll move up through the order quite nicely, thank you very much. And Alex Zanardi now comes into the pits. Bobby Rahal is in as well at the same time.
Here is the race leader then. Rob Hill and crew go to work. Tyres there, 35 laps to go, and fuel is just enough to make it to the end of the race. 10.2 seconds. A little bit slow getting going. I'm slightly surprised it wasn't that, a little bit quicker than that. But back into the fray. Don't exceed the speed limit, Alex Zanardi, as he rejoins the race. Jimmy Vasser actually went past him. So there goes, you just saw a flash of Jimmy Vasser go past Alex Zanardi. He's still not on the lead lap because Greg Moore has yet to make a pit stop. But it's all excitement here now.
Yeah, that's right. Bobby Rahal had a quick stop because he came out ahead of Alex by the looks of it there. They were slow. They couldn't release that fuel hose. That's the same problem that Paul Tracy had a few moments ago. They just couldn't get the fuel hose out again. There's Greg Moore. This is a critical stop. Now let's see whether that came out really well. Very quick release. They spray the water on and away he goes again. A bit too much wheel spin perhaps, but he gets away pretty cleanly, and that's an excellent stop for him.
Richie Hearn in the last, I think, of the leaders to make a pit stop behind him. So that's 194. Greg Moore in the pits. He rejoins the race. Jimmy Vasser comes past. I think will take the lead. There goes Jimmy Vasser to take the lead of this motor race with just over 30 laps to go.
Jimmy Vasser's been in great form all afternoon, apart from the miscue in the pit lane when he stalled it and lost time and would drop down to 11th place. He's been one of the pace setters throughout this event, and now he's up front.
Tires.
Now Richie Hearn's just been reminded on the radio about cold tyres. No tyre warmers in this form of racing, remember. And with the cold temperatures that we're seeing here today, they really have to be cautious. We've already seen what can happen to Michael Andretti when he tried to get going on a restart, lost it completely, hit the wall hard, and that was pretty bad news. We've just heard that Vasser should be able to go all the way through. That shouldn't be a problem. He refueled plenty.
He stopped on lap 165, so that's just 60 laps to go. That should be fine. That should be no problem for Jimmy Vasser. Now holds a comfortable lead of 3.1 seconds over his teammate Alex Zanardi. So two different strategies there. A pretty interesting gamble by Chip Ganassi's team, but it's paying off so far. They are in first and second place. There is Mauricio Gugelmin running fourth behind Greg Moore.
Right, so Gugelmin's having a good run. right behind him in second place, though, and what a battle this is turning into.
Yeah, right ahead of them, the two Team Rahal cars of Brian Herder seems to be struggling on this last stint, and there is Robbie Rahal right behind him, and there are the two Ganassi cars. Vassar trying to get a good run off turn 2, so he's not held up, but Rahal moves to the inside of Herder and blocks Jimmy Vassar. Zanardi now, can he get a run off this corner?
Watch Zanardi, he's got a good chance here, although Vassar's found a nice way through past Herder, and in fact Zanardi loses out because Herder shuts the door on him, as is quite should do, but Zanardi there lost out a few lengths, and now he's got to fight away past Herder. This has given Jimmy Vassar a little bit of breathing space, and just look at Vassar, he's charging through the traffic, he really is going for the gaps.
Yeah, he has to at this stage. He knows Alex Zanardi's not going to take the position, but Greg Moore is right behind Alex Zanardi. They both put another lap on Max.
Oh no!
Mauricio Gugelmin in the wall.
Yeah, Mauricio Gugelmin has had a heavy impact against the wall, and the yellow flag comes out for our 7th caution period. It's going to take a while to clear up, but the question is whether they're going to be able to rerun. I think they will, but we've completed 207 laps out of 225. This one is going to take a little while to clear up, and it's obviously a bad day for Pac West today. We saw Mark Blundell have a heavy contact against the wall earlier on in the race, and now Mauricio Gugelmin repeats the same thing. So it really isn't a good day for Bruce McCaw and the boys.
Shame there for those guys. It's a good run for Mauricio Gugelmin. 4th place there. He'd have been very happy with that, I think. First race with that car, as you say. And they really just needed a good finish to get themselves back on track.
Yeah, great shame. And Mauricio's still sitting in the car at the moment. Drivers will tend to stay in the cars until the safety crews come and find them, particularly if they've been at all bashed around. These cars are remarkably strong, of course, built very, very strongly, and they have to go through a series of tests to make sure that they're okay for racing. On the ovals, of course, the impacts against the wall are very, very high when it goes wrong, and that's the reason, for example, there's a much longer distance between the driver's feet and the tip of the nose cone, and there's 2 bulkheads effectively between the driver's feet and the point of contact with the wall. There's a great deal of space there to absorb the energy. Of course, often on these type of ovals, as we've seen today, Jeremy, the shot is often backwards. That could often cause some back or neck problems, can't it? Because the impact is obviously pretty high as they go back it into the wall.
Yeah, but again, big strides in safety. There's a neck collar that protects the driver's head, and that's made an enormous improvement. Here is the top 6 there. Jimmy Vassar, Alex Zanardi, Greg Moore, and Gilles Verne at the front.
So a quick look through the order there. Bobby Rahal we're on board with at the moment, and Bobby is lying in 7th position, just ahead of teammate Brian Herter. That was a fairly dramatic pass just a moment ago on his teammate, and as you can see, once they're out there, it's just races together. It doesn't really matter whether he's teammate or not, or whether Bobby's team boss or not. They're just out there racing wheel to wheel. Richie Hearn we're looking at the moment, lying in 10th position, and Richie having a better run than he's had for quite a long time, I have to say. As you mentioned earlier, Jeremy, he had a good run here last year as well. Obviously, he likes this place, and that Swift chassis working well now. It does look as though Maurizio may have suffered some back or neck trouble in that accident against the wall. It must have been a fairly hefty shunt.
Yeah, any shunt on this track is hefty, and they'll be just taking care. You can see Mauricio looks pretty relaxed there, I'd say. I think they're just taking every precaution. They're being just not taking any risk whatsoever, and they will put a backboard. In actual fact, with a rear impact, that is standard procedure to use the backboard or a neck collar if the guy doesn't hop out under his own steam right away.
Looking there at Robbie Gordon still running in 6th place, and you have to say that's a tremendous effort, isn't it?
It certainly is. He run very well indeed. It's interesting, since those he, Vassar and Herder, of course, elected not to make a second stop earlier on in this race. They're only a different strategy than everybody else. It certainly paid off for Robbie Gordon, and Brian Herder, however, has certainly been struggling. Since he put on that last set of tyres, he's fallen back. Robbie Gordon got past him, and an excellent 6th place now for Robbie Gordon. Herder, of course, we saw just being lapped right before this last caution involving Mauricio Gugelmin, so Herder is a lap down now in 8th position.
On board now with Jimmy Vassar then, the man who won the championship for the Ganassi team some while ago now, 1996, not too long ago. They, of course, the team still looking to become a 3-time champion team. It really would be quite a major achievement if they could manage that, from Vassar to Zanardi, and then one of them perhaps to win it again this year. Well, they certainly got a chance. They've both been competitive throughout the season so far.
Yeah, Jimmy was certainly saying after Zanardi won the championship last year, Jimmy said, well, how about 2 out of 3? He's going for the majority here.
So Maurizio Gutermin obviously taking a bit of time to get him out of the car, and being very, very careful with him, using those braces, and a special brace that they have developed just for this type of event. If there's any neck pain, any stiffness at all, then they will use that straight away, and that's obviously to make sure that there's no undue movement in the back. Absolutely critical thing when you're getting people out of damaged cars. And the medical facilities here, absolutely tremendous. They have this mobile medical centre which goes to all of the racetracks, and it's completely fully equipped. They can carry out operations in there. Obviously they have helicopter links as well to the nearest hospital. Dr. Steve Olvey is the Director of Medical Affairs. He's very experienced now. He's the boss of the CART safety team. And it was a team that was created after the 1981 Michigan race. That's when they really got serious about this whole safety issue. And it's a team that works very hard to make sure these drivers are well looked after.
Carl Horton was the first guy who really got the safety team up and running, and fantastic strides Carl made. He was a distributor of various types of medical equipment, and he really made this a state-of-the-art rescue and protection system, let's say, for all the drivers on this circuit. And it's been enhanced every year since then. It's really a first-class medical facility that's available to these drivers, and the team of doctors that goes around with the FedEx Championship Series.
That's right, they have specialists in orthopedic surgery, trauma, dealing with trauma as well. And the medical centre here actually deals with some sort of 40 to 60 people over the course of a weekend normally, and that's just sort of minor problems, minor ailments, cuts and bruises, all sorts of things. There are a lot of team members here, of course, over the weekend, a lot of personnel involved in the whole championship, and that's an important part of it.
1,000 people made the trip to Japan as part of the circus, let's say, and anybody who holds a hard card, who is a regular attendee at the races, in terms of the crews or even the journalists, I must say, we're all able to use that facility if required.
The car is still behind the pace car. 214 laps have been completed now, and still 11 laps to go. I wonder if we're going to get a chance to get this race restarted. The situation still looking pretty well, a lot of time still required to clear things up just over here. Maurizio Gutermin now in the evidence, being taken over to the medical centre, but there's still a lot of clear up with the car to be done.
Yeah, boy, there is a lot of work to be done. There's only 11 laps to go. The pace car having around about 1 minute, so if they were to stay under caution, that would be another 10 minutes or so. That's a lot of work required in the next 10 minutes to get it ready for racing, but well, I hope we go Greeningham. A pretty interesting race with the 2 Target Chip Ganassi cars at the front of the field, and in between them there it's the shell car of Brian Herter, 1 lap down, and between these 2 Target Ganassi guys.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. And Greg Moore, of course, not far behind. And then Gilles de Ferran, Paul Tracy, Robbie Gordon. We've got some pretty feisty racers up there.
Yeah, it's funny how we see Herter and Zanardi together on the racetrack towards the end of just about every single race. But Herter's a professional. He's not going to get in the way, I believe, of Alex Zanardi. And I think he realised at this stage in the game that Zanardi has a much faster car. I think we'll see Herter let Zanardi go through at the restart and let those 2 duke it out. Maybe, who knows, maybe they'll tangle together, and maybe Herter will make a place or 2 out of this at the end of the day. But certainly, he was one of the first to congratulate Alex Zanardi 3 weeks ago in Long Beach after Zanardi's fantastic move towards the end of that race.
Yeah, it's pretty astonishing performance here, and we've got a Honda 1-2 at the moment. If de Ferran got past Greg Moore, we'd have a Honda 1-2-3. They've never managed that before. But what we are looking at is a possible first ever Firestone victory here at Nazareth. We've got Firestone 1-2-3 at the moment. So it's pretty unlikely we're going to lose all 3 of them on the run to the checkered flag. You never know. I mean, look what happened to Michael Andretti. And that is a point, because if they do get going again, the tyre temperature will be right down again, won't it?
Yeah, I think the temperature's certainly picked up a little bit now. What's the time now? Just exactly noon. And it's certainly several degrees warmer than it was earlier on in the race. Plus, we've all got used tyres here. The tyres are well scrubbed in, and they should be in pretty good shape. Also, of course, Robbie Gordon, still the best result there for Toyota, 6th place for him.
Well, if he can hold on to that, let's see what happens. Still some laps to go, some 9 laps to go here, and we'll just have to see whether they're going to be able to run them. Well, they are clearing up as quickly as possible up there, and but obviously it's fairly important that the situation is dealt with as safely as possible. They can't afford to leave any fluids or debris up there on an oval track with speeds of 180 miles an hour. The track has to be in perfect condition for them to consider getting it restarted. They've got these trucks with these special rotating brooms on the front of them to try and sweep away the fluids as Maurizio Gugelmin gets taken to the medical centre, which is situated just in the back of the paddock. That was created in this is a replay, yes, this is what happened to Maurizio. Oh,
he took his hands off the steering wheel there, braced himself for the impact. A very heavy impact indeed by Maurizio Gugelmin. He seemed to be changing down the gear there, going into the corner. Whether he had a problem, whether that created a problem for him, difficult to say, of course. But certainly the car just snapped around on him going into turn 3. There is some braking involved down there, and it certainly looked as if he was moving his right hand out there to make a shift as well.
Yeah, they usually run this track in top gear all the way around, but once they get into the race and they're dealing with traffic, or perhaps if the tyre performance has gone off a bit, then they tend to change down just for that corner, don't they?
Certainly, yeah, the race pace is a little bit slower, obviously, than qualifying, and they do slow down a little bit more for that turn than they would otherwise do.
So Maurizio's car brought back, and Pac West have 2 extremely badly damaged Reynards to deal with in just a short space of time. They've got to get all this stuff crated over to Brazil for the next race pretty soon. We have 7 laps to go here, but they're still behind the pace car. And we reckon that they are going to go green, though, in a lap and a half time. So we should be in for a pretty thrilling climax to the end of this race. Let's look at what happened to Maurizio Gugelmin. Jeremy, just talk us through it.
Down the back straight there, down into turn 3. There's a slower car ahead of him. He certainly seems to make a gear shift there. He realizes he's lost control, takes his hand off the wheel, doesn't want to get that snap of the steering wheel just to cause any problems to his wrists. But our certainly best wishes are with Maurizio Gugelmin. We hope he's going to be okay and back in action for his home race in Brazil in 2 weeks' time. The cars, of course, leave over the weekend, next weekend. So, as you say, a lot of work to be done by the Pac West Racing.
So 1 lap to green. Here we go. This is going to be fun, isn't it? When they come across the line, they'll have completed 220. So that'll actually be 5 laps of racing to go. And Jimmy Vasser versus Alex Zanardi. Last thing they want in the world is to take each other off, but they both want to take the win. It would be either of their first ever win. Yep, the pace car's off. It would be either of their first win on a 1 mile oval on a short oval track, or as short as they get in Champ Car racing. Here we go. Jimmy Vasser's ready to go to turn 3. And
it's on a great jump off the corner there by Jimmy Vasser, and certainly next to, well, I think Herder wasn't held up too bad, but certainly Zanardi was hanging back a little bit to try and get a run on Herder, and that's enabled Jimmy Vasser to jump out of a very substantial lead.
Yeah, he's really pulled away massively already, and that could be the key moment as he comes up to turn 3 again. Zanardi is still behind Brian Herter. He hasn't managed to find a way past yet. Jimmy Vasser's been in very brave, courageous and committed form, I have to say, here today. He's been dealing with traffic brilliantly. He's been fast on the restart, and that was pure evidence of that. He got on it straight away. He wasn't worried about what happened to Michael Andretti earlier, who spun it out of turn 3. Herter moves out of the way completely on this lap, but Zanardi surely is too far back to do anything now. He's 1.5 seconds behind last time round. This time as they go past, it's 1.6 seconds. Greg Moore is in 3rd place there. He's now got to try and deal with Brian Herter's car. Then De Ferran in 4th. Tracy is 5th. Bobby Rahal is in 6th place. 7th for Robbie Gordon, and 8th place for Brian Herter. This car that the leaders are trying to lap at the moment. Jimmy Vasser stormed away there. Alex Zanardi now trying to close it down. He's gained about half a tenth of a second on that last lap, but nothing more than that. And there are only 2 laps to go. So 2 miles to Jimmy Vasser's first ever 1 mile oval victory. This will be his 6th career victory if he can manage it.
He worked so hard with his race engineer Julian Robertson, who's formerly with Lotus in Formula 1, to make this car handle for a race distance. Boy, does he seem to be successful. Struggled, as we said a little bit earlier on Friday morning, but a fantastic job by Jimmy Vasser.
Here he comes then, final lap, last corner. Jimmy Vasser is going to win at the Nazareth Speedway. Round 4 of the championship, and we have a 4th different winner this season. It's the first Firestone victory of the championship at this particular track. Zanardi finishes 2nd, Moore is 3rd, De Ferran in 4th place, Paul Tracy is 5th, Bobby Rahal 6th, Robbie Gordon in 7th place, Brian Hurter 8th, Tony Kanaan is 9th, 10th for Richie Hearn, 11th for Christian Fittipaldi, and the last point scorer, Michel Jourdain Jr. The two Ganassi teammates, they've done it at last. They've won on a 1 mile oval, and very suitably, as Chip Ganassi announces his plans to run a 1 mile oval race in Chicago.
Great effort by Jimmy Vasser. Lap 199 was a 19.6. I reckon that's probably the fastest lap of the race, just when he needed to do it. Alex Zanardi was able to match him up until then. The 19.8 was Zanardi's best up until that point. And there is Jimmy Vasser, absolutely delighted. Oh, he's waving. There is Alex Zanardi, of course. He's equally thrilled. Great points for him in the championship. That'll move him up probably into the lead of the championship, actually, ahead of Greg Moore. There'll be a couple of points almost tied together. We'll work that out for you in a couple of moments. But tremendous 1-2 finish for Target Chip Ganassi Racing.
Yeah, really great effort from the team again. And you have to say this team is still a #1 team, if not the #1 team. They've had some pretty good opposition so far this year already, remember. We've seen Newman Haas winning a race. We've seen Patrick Racing win a race. But now Ganassi have won 2 races in a row. Alex Zanardi in Long Beach and Jimmy Vasser here. And it's the first 1-2 result since Mid-Ohio last year. Brilliant team performance then. Chip Ganassi just showing that this team is still on top form, and the motivation, the commitment, even after winning 2 championships in 2 successive years, seems to be as strong as ever. Down there in winner's circle, and Jimmy Vasser getting the congratulations from his delighted crew.
It's the power, baby.
Great pictures, and we've got a man with a microphone ready and waiting to talk to Jimmy Vasser just as soon as he can get that crash helmet on.
And he has to go out the opposite side of the car.
Look at this. Great stuff. Alex Zanardi and Jimmy Vasser giving each other a hug. There's a lovely relationship between these two. They've really become firm friends. It happened pretty early on when they started racing together, and it's just seemed to have deepened. They really get on well. They share an awful lot of information, and they shared a great result here. Let's hear from Jimmy.
He'll get Tim down here and get a word with him in just a half a second. Jimmy, how much of a surprise to you was this performance?
Well, I knew we had a great test here about 3 weeks ago, and we've been working really hard trying to get our 1 mile oval car ready, and we knew it was better, but we took a chance, and luckily they had to stop under the green too, and my crew did a good job getting me in and out, and it's too bad for Mike there. Mike would have been tough, but we had a good race car today, and I'm not surprised we won.
It ends up with a 2-stop strategy for you, a 3-stop strategy for your teammate, and you're both here virtually at the same time. That, I think, would qualify as another surprise.
Yeah, I was questioning them staying out, because we stayed out and they stopped, but then they ended up right behind us. So essentially, they had more fuel than us, and they were right behind us. But it worked out for the better.
Well, where's Alex Zanardi? We're looking for him. We see Chip Ganassi over here. As you can expect, it's always bedlam.
Great success for Jimmy Vasser and for the team, for Ganassi Racing. A 1-2 result here, Greg Moore in 3rd. They're the final results, and in the championship terms, good news for Greg Moore, who now leads the series, but Alex Zanardi's just 1 point behind him now. So fantastic in the championship, it couldn't be much closer. Zanardi and Moore separated by just a point. As you look on down the list, Tony Kanaan finished as the top rookie. Another good effort from him, 9th place, and he'll continue to lead the rookie series. Further down the list, we saw accidents for the likes of Maurizio Gugelmin, Michael Andretti, and for Mark Blundell, and we hope that none of those guys are seriously hurt as a result of the accidents they had here at Nazareth today. A lot of drama. We had a delayed race, a race that couldn't be run on Sunday. Beautiful conditions here on the Monday, and a very exciting race to see Jimmy Vasser come through for the victory. 2 weeks' time, we're going to be going to Rio, and that's going to be a fun track too, Jeremy.
It certainly is. It's a very, very different kind of oval track. They shift down 2 gears at each end of the racetrack. That's going to be a fabulous race as well. Don't miss that one.
That'll be round 5 of the championship, a championship that is already proving to be an incredibly close and exciting one. From Ben Edwards and Jeremy Shaw, thank you for joining us. Join us again in 2 weeks' time.